Item 15, AB 819 by Assemblyman Calderon, and Item 23, AB 1487 by Assemblyman Hill. We will begin today as a subcommittee out of respect for everyone's time. I see that our first author, first on our agenda as well, is here. Welcome, Assemblyman Swanson. You have with us today AB 17.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, AB 17 is one of a number of bills that I have authored to continue the fight against human trafficking and sexual exploitation of minors. Commercial sexual exploitation of minors is a growing epidemic in our state. Human trafficking of children for sexual activities is a profitable underground enterprise with high demand. Current financial penalties against traffickers are insufficient to stem the growing trade in underage youth. Furthermore, community-based organizations that aid and serve the underage victims of sexual exploitation are not receiving the funds that they need to fully assist these victims. Members, human trafficking is the third largest criminal activity on the planet and is on track to become the first largest within the near future. Numbers range from 500,000 to several million individuals trafficking across international borders. It was with this issue in mind that we submitted AB 499, which passed last year. We must take these crimes, punish them to the fullest extent of the law with zero tolerance. AB 17 would strengthen penalties on pimping, pandering, the procurement of a minor, while dedicating half of the funds raised through these additional penalties to programs that specifically support the sexual exploitation of minors. With that, I would ask for my witnesses to self-introduce with permission of the chair.
Very good. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Yes, hello. My name is Wayne Wright. Our daughter at 14 and a half was missing for 6.5 months, during which time she was targeted by a predator, which traveled her across the country through several states, prostituting her. The FBI became involved. There were arrests. What we found is this is a pervasive problem throughout the community, that there are hundreds and hundreds of children that were similar to our daughter, which were abused for the profit center of someone. Their total reason for taking these children is profit. And so they're abusing these children throughout the state. We also found that there were different nonprofits that came to help us. These nonprofit companies need help through funding. The best way to do this is to take the assets of these pimps and predators that their sole way of making money is the abuse of children. That's how they make their profit. The children become a product to them. And there's funding that's needed for these nonprofits. There also needs to be a zero tolerance on the state side to impose penalties that are sufficient enough to dissuade these people from pimping and pandering young children. We appreciate your vote on this.
Mr. Wright, thank you for your testimony today. Your daughter is safe?
Yes, she is.
Good to know.
Yes, she is.
Thank you.
But it was quite a ride. We did find out that there's hundreds and hundreds of children that this is happening to. It's pervasive, and so we hope that you'll vote yes on it.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. No.
Danielle Mollet, Child Abuse Prevention Center. I want to thank you for being here this morning. We believe that this is a very significant problem for children in the United States and specifically California as well. Some of the issues that we do see with child victims of sexual exploitation would include long-term health problems such as sleep and eating disorders, sexually transmitted diseases, fear and anxiety, depression, guilt, shame, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So the funding for programs to rehabilitate and to treat these girls who have been sexually exploited is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizotto on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. We've worked with the author in the Assembly on this issue. I believe this is a good bill. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And just to clarify for everyone, the author has worked with the committee toward an amendment
Yes, a
that would
technical-
take the forfeited proceeds from these crimes and deposit them into the Victim Witness Assistance Fund.
Yes,
so
Mr.
that
Chairman, that's correct. And
victims would get the assistance that they need.
Right. I thank the committee for the clarifying language. It does help us make sure that these funds are deposited in the Victim Witness Assistance Fund and specifically dedicated to assisting these children. We have one more statement.
Sure.
Would you like to just...
I just wanted to, I'm with Wayne, our daughter Dana again. We did find when we did look for help, the limited resources available and absolutely no funding on them. I'm sorry, I'm just a little nervous.
No, that's fine.
My thing is these men knowingly and willingly destroy these young lives, so I think that they should forfeit any proceeds that they make off of them.
That's the way the committee feels, too. Very good. Anybody else who'd like to speak in support of Assemblyman Swanson's bill? Is there any opposition? Work your way up the maze, Ms. Sanchez. Yes. Senator Benoit, you had a comment or question? Afterward, okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Liberty Sanchez on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association. We appreciate the problem that the Assembly member is trying to address with this measure. We appreciate the hard work he's put into it and the intent. We just think that it kind of boils down to a philosophical difference about the appropriate approach. We think, more focus should be put on early intervention and assistance rather than additionally financially penalizing many perpetrators who are represented by public defenders and therefore are not going to be able to come up with the funds to provide the services that the Assembly member is hoping will be provided. So
the amendment just says that it's the forfeited proceeds. So if someone's indigent and making use of your client's services, there probably wouldn't be any proceeds.
Exactly. We just believe that the majority of these perpetrators actually tend to be reliant on public defender services, and therefore the proceeds that are hoped to be garnered by this measure are illusory. And we believe more focus, and we understand that, in this time of funding shortage that's a pipe dream, but we believe more focus should be put on early intervention and assistance.
I don't think anyone would argue that, but I don't think you're suggesting that when there are forfeited proceeds that they shouldn't go into the fund and to benefit.
Not at
victims.
all.
That's all the amendment does.
We completely agree with that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Senator Benoit.
I'd just like to thank the author for bringing the bill forward, but more importantly, thank the witnesses for coming. It's a very difficult time for you, I'm sure. As a 31-year veteran of law enforcement, I've had the unfortunate privilege of meeting with a lot of victims, and you've taken the step in a direction of trying to do the right thing, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Wrights.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would close.
Sure.
I would close by saying AB 17 would specifically increase crimes to $20,000 per count from the original $5,000, and it would characterize this activity as criminal profiteering activity, which with the amendment would allow us to seize property. Other states that have instituted similar have actually collected hundreds of thousands of dollars, and so I think that it's not accurate to suggest that there wouldn't be funds to benefit a program to help rescue some of these young people that are part of this crime of human trafficking.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. It's a good bill. I think even better as amended, and as soon as we get our quorum, we will have a motion and take it up at that time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again for your testimony. You bet. Give our greetings and support to your daughter, please. All right. Good morning, Assemblyman De Leon, followed by Assemblyman Nava. Our item number 2, AB 99.
Good morning, Senator Marcolino and Senator Benoit, Juan Benoit. I appreciate the opportunity to present AB 99. a very simple and straightforward measure. This bill seeks to expand the acceptable form of identification used in second-hand pawn transactions to include a matricula consular, in addition to another form of identification bearing an address. The matricula consular is accepted as valid identification in 377 cities, 163 counties, 33 states, 1,180 police departments throughout the United States, as well as 178 financial institutions. The IRS, telephone companies, utility companies, hospitals, and the county sheriffs. AB 99 is similar to 1870, a bill I introduced last year that was vetoed by the governor with a generic veto message. Mr. Chair, as well as Mr. Benoit, I respectfully ask for your aye vote. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. You have witnesses in support.
That would be you.
Mr. Duplessis, welcome.
Mr. Chairman and members, Bill Duplessis represent the Collateral Lenders and Secondhand Dealers Association of California, lovingly known as the Pawnbrokers, asking for support.
Thank you, sir. Others in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Senator Benoit, Vanessa Kahina with the California Immigrant Policy Center. Matricula consulars are widely accepted by many cities and law enforcement agencies as a valid form of identification. We believe that this form of identification should also be able to be accepted with pawnbrokers and coin dealers. For that reason, we support this bill. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Assemblyman.
Yes, sir.
What was the gist of the governor's veto message last year?
It was, I don't have the copy with me, Mr. Chair, but it was a generic message. I know that during that time frame when he had vetoed numerous measures across the board, he was in not in a very good mood, to say the least. And I think that my measure, as well as many other members on both sides of this building, got caught up in that.
If you see today's television commercial, it doesn't look like he's in much better of a mood, but maybe we shouldn't read too much into that. From what I understand,
when I read in the paper, it looks like he's in a worse mood than last year. So. But it was, Mr. Chair, it was a generic message.
Understood. Okay. Well, you've got your secret weapon, Mr. Duplessis. He's dynamite in that office. So, any questions, comments from the committee? We have, I don't believe, any oppositional voice here today, but certainly if there is, please step forward. And as we get our quorum established, Assemblyman, we will take up your bill.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I have two other measures.
Yes, why don't we take up your next one?
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And that would be item 12, number 789.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, as well as thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chair, as well as members, Mr. Huff, this is a bipartisan measure on the Assembly side. Every year in the United States, 2 to 4 million women as well as men are assaulted by a domestic partner. Research shows that domestic violence assaults with firearms are 12 times more likely to result in death. Firearms in the hands of domestic violence offenders places domestic violence victims at a dangerous risk and potentially deadly situation. A California court recently noted a loophole in California law regarding this problem. Although California law requires confiscation of a domestic violence offender's firearm, that statute is not explicitly issued as a ground for the issuance of a search warrant to law enforcement. This means that even though law enforcement knows that there's a weapon in the possession of a domestic violence offender, they cannot recover that weapon, leaving a gun in the hands of a known and dangerous domestic violence offender. AB 789 will remedy the situation and provide law enforcement the statutory authority to protect domestic violence victims and constitutionally seized dangerous firearms from domestic abusers. This bill has received no votes, no votes, I should say, in committee. Again, it's a bipartisan measure. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And, Mr. Chair, I also would like to accept the amendments as suggested as author's amendments by
and just
staff.
To clarify for everybody, that would require probable cause for a firearm that has not been relinquished.
That is correct.
Right. Very good. Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. We are co-sponsor of this bill. As the Assemblyman noted, there is a deficiency in existing law. A subject of a domestic violence restraining order is required by California law to temporarily turn over any firearms they have in their possession or control under an existing law. However, in the absence of either voluntarily turning over the firearms or some exigent circumstance, law enforcement has no ability to enter the home to take custody of these firearms when they know that they're there, because we are not able to seek a search warrant under current law. All this bill does is remedy that deficiency. We ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Felizardo.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Lieutenant Wayne Billowit on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We're also co-sponsor of this bill. We urge your support for the reasons stated.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nick Warner on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. We're also co-sponsors of the bill. Urge your aye vote for the reasons you've heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
John Lovell with the police chiefs, with the narcotic officers and the peace officers, all in support, and would like to wish all members of the committee a happy Bastille Day.
Very good. And to you, Mr. Lovell, thank you, especially to Mr. Benoit. Anyone else in support of Assemblyman DeLeon's 789? Anyone in opposition? Closing statement.
I respectfully, once the quorum is established, Mr. Chair, and I vote.
Very good. Was there opposition? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Welcome back, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. I believe that we are registered in opposition on behalf of the Public Defenders Association. I believe that the amendment articulated by the author may well address the bulk of our concerns and remove our opposition, and I look forward to reading it and making sure of that.
Pleased to hear that. Thank you. So, yes, as we get our quorum, we will take that up. And then your third bill with us is item 16, AB 955.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I thank Mr. Pedro Nava for his patience, too. Mr. Chair, as well as members, again, thank you for allowing me to present AB 955, a bill to clarify existing law. Years ago, back in 1997 to be specific, AB 1436 was passed into law to amend the Peace Officers Procedural Bill of Rights. The law ensured that officers were provided appropriate information regarding the details and decisions of any investigations conducted on them in a timely manner. Last spring, the California Supreme Court misinterpreted the intent of existing law to limit investigation periods and provide notice of proposed discipline to 1 year. AB 955 seeks to clarify the intent of the original legislation and continue providing officers administrative guidance in these situations. This bill is sponsored by PORAC, the California Correctional Supervisors Organization. It is also supported by the California Association of Highway Patrolmen. All here are today to provide any further insight and detail to this issue. Mr. Chair, as well as members, this is a bipartisan bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblyman. In support.
Mr. Chair, members, Randy Perry there and Reed & Associates on behalf of PORAC and the California Association of Highway Patrol as co-sponsors. Like the Assemblyman said, the bill was written 10 years ago, had no issues, and then a case went to the Supreme Court, and part of that opinion, the Supreme Court actually opined something that it baffles all of us, even our attorneys, the sheriff's attorneys, all do not understand how they got to where they got, but the bottom line is part of their decision basically threw out what we had done 10 years ago. So literally they didn't finish reading the sentence that we had written. We thought it was very clear, so we ran this bill to clarify once again that an investigation of an officer must be completed, and if there's going to be discipline officer notified of their discipline within 12 months. There are numerous tolling provisions, multi-jurisdictional issues, on and on and on. Then this doesn't apply. So we worked those out 10 years ago with management about all the tolling provisions and the like. They came on together. We supported the original bill. We have once again sat down with management to work out all of these issues to clarify it. And once again, as you can see, they're in support of the bill again.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. The court does baffle now and again. In support.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Lieutenant Wayne Billow on behalf of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. We're in support.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Nick Warner on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. As you know, we represent all 58 elected sheriffs And I just wanted to thank Mr. Perry and Porak and also the author. From the minute this bill hit Mr. De Leon's radar screen, they reached out to us. We've had numerous conference calls with our attorneys, with Porak's attorneys, and I think it's a real good example of labor and management working together. We're in strong support of the bill, frankly, for the same reasons that Mr. Perry mentioned. Thank you.
Mr. Warner.
Good morning. Jim Frayne representing, pardon me, the Deputy Sheriffs of Sacramento, Orange County, Anaheim Police Association, State Coalition of Probation Organizations, Fraternal Order of Police, Sacramento Chapter. There are minor abuses by management for personal biases against officers, and they do that on a basis, only a minor management, only a minor percentage of them do that. But while the action is pending, meanwhile the officer is not going to get promoted, and sometimes he gets the spot where other officers don't want to be around him because of possibility of this adjudication coming down and it spills on them. This is justice and equity. We urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frayne.
John Lovell with the California Peace Officers and California Police Chiefs Association. Al Cooper and I were the two management people who Mr. Perry references 10 years ago, and we concur in strong support of this particular bill. I would take issue with my friend Mr. Frayne. There is no such thing as a management abuse, only management good judgment.
Plastic kills chicken.
So noted, Mr. Lovell.
Tim Yarian, representing the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, the Riverside Sheriffs Association, and the Los Angeles Probation Officers Union. Just by way of historical footnote, I think Mr. Lovell and I spent days working on the details of this bill, carving out numerous exceptions to the bill. It's one of the reasons why John has gray hair today. But the purpose of this bill was to make sure the discipline with peace officers was undertaken in a timely manner, and I think we've accomplished that with this bill. Urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Yarian. You'll spare us the other reasons. Anyone else in support? In opposition? Closing comments from the author.
Mr. Chair, as well as members, once a quorum is established, I respectfully ask for your aye vote. It was back in 1997 when then Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. John Vasconcellos, who chaired this committee when this bill came through the Senate side and eventually was codified into law. It was authored by then now Congressman Dennis Cardoza and then Assemblymember Carl Washington. It was a bipartisan measure back then with Senator Richard Polanco, Senator Rainey, Mr. Vasconcellos, and a few others. Interestingly enough, it was Quentin Kopp in San Francisco who, for reasons unbeknownst to us, was a no vote. Nonetheless, I do concur with your assessment that the court just recently does very strange things at times. So once a quorum is established, I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And I do want to wish Mr. Jean Benoit a happy Bastille Day, too.
Okay. Thank you, Assemblyman.
This is America, by the way.
So the ever-patient Mr. Nava is next with 3 bills before us today, items 3, 4, and 5, AVs 241, 242, and 243. Welcome, Assemblyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. The first bill I'd like to present today is Assembly Bill 241, the Responsible Breeder Act. Recent national media attention has highlighted the plight of puppies in commercial breeding facilities across the country. Known as puppy mills, these factories mass-produce puppies for sale. Puppy mill kennels usually consist of small wood and wire mesh cages where female dogs are bred continuously with no rest between their cycles. The mothers and their litters often suffer from malnutrition, exposure, and lack of adequate veterinary care. Continuous breeding takes its toll on the females. They are killed at about age 6 or 7 when their bodies give out and they are no longer profitable. The puppies are taken from their mothers at the age of 4 to 8 weeks and sold to brokers for transport and resale to pet shops. Between unsanitary conditions at puppy mills and the poor treatment and transport, only half of the dogs bred at mills survive to make it to market. Of those that eventually do make it to stores, thousands of puppies each year are often sold to impulse buyers and ultimately end up in shelters. In fact, Nearly 1 million dogs and cats land in California animal shelters every year, of whom approximately half are ultimately euthanized. A criminal bust of a single puppy mill can yield massive expenses to state and local jurisdictions due to the cost of shelter, food, and veterinary care. With this in mind, AB 241 limits the number of intact dogs or cats a seller can maintain to the number 50. This measure had bipartisan support in the Assembly. I'm proud of the work that we've done to bring CACDA, the California Animal Control Directors Association, on board in support. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote, and we have witnesses in support as well.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Before we get to your witnesses, I wanted to check in with you regarding potential authors' amendments. One, to clarify that the limited number 50 would be breedable dogs, so that we wouldn't have a situation where there might be 20 dogs and 5 litters of puppies with 8 puppies each. That's not what you're trying to preempt here.
No, what I'm trying to do is ensure that what we have are 50 dogs that are breedable. We'll have additional conversations with respect to how you determine that, because it is, in fact, a moving target and at times difficult to define.
Very good. And then there was another idea that one of the opponents had suggested. I just wanted to get your take on it. Reading something such as, this section shall not apply to persons licensed as a dealer pursuant to Animal Welfare Act 7.
Let me, before I fully embrace that, let me have a conversation with the sponsors.
Of course.
Because
and maybe your sponsor will comment in his presentation.
Terms of art can make a difference.
Sure. Very good. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Eric Sagish, and I'm the Senior Law Enforcement Specialist for the Humane Society of the United States. I'm here to represent about 1.2 million members of the organization today, and we'd like to thank Mr. Nava for introducing this important legislation. Puppy mills are large-scale commercial breeding facilities that mass-produce puppies for sale. Breeding dogs live their entire lives in cages that are continually bred for years without human companionship, with little hope of ever becoming part of a family. They often receive little or no veterinary care. After their fertility wanes, breeding animals are commonly killed, abandoned, or sold to another mill. The annual result of this breeding is hundreds of thousands of puppies, many with behavior and health problems. Investigations by humane organizations have proven time and again that because these conditions are so inhumane that it puts local humane organizations at a great disadvantage when trying to investigate complaints. Because California lacks any statewide regulation or inspection programs covering pet breeders, it's difficult to estimate the size of the industry. However, based on reports from humane law enforcement agencies across the state, it's clear that high-volume breeders operate without any federal or state oversight in many California counties, including reports of such facilities in Tehama, Riverside, Los Angeles, and San Luis Obispo counties. Even when there are local efforts made to curb the cruelties, the need for significant time and financial resources can be overwhelming. For example, in October of 2007, Los Angeles County officials reportedly inspected World Kennels outside of Palmdale. There they found hundreds of dogs living in cages, subsisting on contaminated water, living in accumulated feces. The kennel was ordered to make changes. 2 weeks later, the county reportedly inspected and awarded an A rating. Then, in May 2008, a humane investigation conducted by Last Chance for Animals revealed that the kennel had 402 dogs being kept under similarly inhumane conditions. These animals were stacked in filthy cages, one on top of another, halfway to the ceiling in trailers. The county then ordered World Kennels to reduce the number of animals to 100 or be shut down. This organization is still in business and still selling puppies at pet stores through the pet store industry and via the internet. As breeding dogs and puppies suffer in these factory farm-like operations, churning out litters multiple times per year, approximately 800,000 dogs are entering California animal shelters each year. About half of these animals are euthanized at taxpayer expense because there are more animals than there are people willing to adopt them. The sheltering of these dogs and cats costs California citizens an estimated $250 million per year. An estimated 1 in 4 dogs entering shelters are purebred. As such, purpose-bred dogs contribute significantly to the California pet overpopulation crisis. The staff and financial resources of local animal control and humane agencies are often inadequate to address the scope of the problem. The bust of a single puppy mill with the cost of shelter, food, and vet care for so many animals can quickly add up to tens of thousands of dollars within weeks. I was just involved in a case in Wisconsin in which 347 dogs were seized. It cost our organization over $250,000 just to care for these animals for the month leading up to the first hearing. This legislation is not without precedent. Following massive puppy mill investigations in Virginia in 2007 and in Louisiana in 2008, both states passed legislation, and more legislation has been introduced in an astounding 34 states in response to concerned citizens. Oregon and Washington have already recently enacted legislation similar to this bill. Citizens are concerned about this bill, and we respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony and for your tireless work in behalf of Humane Conditions. Others in support of the bill?
John Lovell with the California Peace Officers Association and the California Police Chiefs Association. We support this bill. My wife and I actually rescue animals, and 3 of our rescues are refugees from puppy mills, and when we got them, they were in terrible shape. This is a very good bill.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell. In support?
Christian Foy on behalf of the City of Long Beach. And the impound of unwanted animals is a problem of great concern for the City of Long Beach, and that's why we're here in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Schmitz, I'm here on behalf of the ASPCA and its 130,000 California members, as well as the Born Free USA, and we're in support.
Thank you, Mr. Schmitz.
Hi, Jennifer Fearing here on behalf of the California Animal Association, a coalition of 12 national animal organizations in support of this bill.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Come on up.
Good morning. Patty Schenker with Voice for the Animals, CARE, Stray Cat Alliance, A Dog's Life, and Take Me Home Rescues. And as an individual, I ask you to kindly support this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning. Judy Mancuso on behalf of Social Compassion and Legislation. Please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mancuso.
Hello, Virginia Handley, PAWPAC, in support.
Thank you.
Good morning. Rob Rubin with RescueFinder.org, animal welfare startup. Thank you very much for your support of AB 241. It's much needed.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Please step forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Bill Hemby. I represent an organization called PetPac.
Mr. Lovell, if you may make room, please, for some of the opposition. Thank you.
At a senior moment.
Right.
It's all right.
We oppose AB 241 because, according to what the proponents are testifying to, a lot of this we feel is just smoke and mirrors. Setting a 50-dog or cat limit sounds very logical, and proponents would like you to believe it will ease conditions that may exist in large puppy farms. But in reality, it has nothing to do with conditions of animal cruelty. In fact, in Nebraska, a study just completed shows the complete opposite. The largest kennels had the least violations. If this bill pertained to sheep, cows, goats, or horses, we wouldn't be sitting around this table right now, because 50 is a very small limit for those animals, and that because we all understand what farming is all about. But when it comes to dogs, there seems to be a movement to decrease the numbers of dogs that people are allowed to have as pets. Proponents cite horrific puppy mill cases from outside of California. They talked about one case down in, I believe it was Lancaster, where there were, I think, in reality, over 400 dogs. The lady was, in fact, arrested, and the dogs were taken away. And these were all based upon local ordinances that are already in place. In fact, California has a plethora of local ordinances to limit the numbers of dogs and cats that a person can have, and to, in the analysis itself, it talks about 597F of the Penal Code, which talks of all the various codes that you can arrest a person for cruelty, which we agree with.
Why don't you move over?
So what we're trying to say here is that numerical numbers has nothing to do with animal cruelty. What has to do with animal cruelty is how these puppies are taken care of or not taken care of, and that in itself is what we are concerned about too. However, looking over the Department of Agriculture Animal Welfare Act, we find that they identified between 5 and 7 so-called puppy mills in California, all of which passed their inspections, and their inspections were done not more than a year ago. So they are inspecting those agencies that fall, those farms that fall under their purview. And Mr. Nava admits in his statements that the Department of Agriculture is tasked with monitoring and inspecting kennels to ensure they are not violating the standards of the Animal Welfare Act. He also mentioned that it's difficult to ascertain how dogs, whether they're intact or not intact. In fact, if you have 50 dogs and 35 bitches, if the bitches are spayed, you can't tell that unless you do a physical examination by a veterinarian. So there's no way that a person can go onto a puppy farm or to any breeder and say, these dogs are all intact, these dogs aren't, without taking them all in and doing the puppy or see whether the ultrasounds. And there are a lot of problems with both sides. I can name examples of kennels in the breed I breed is Borzoi, and there's a person back east who has over 100 Borzoi, and she consistently wins titles throughout the country with those dogs. On the other side of the fence, in Placer County last year, there was a woman who had 40 Afghans. Now, these dogs would not have come into play with this bill because it was under the 50 limit. Those dogs were kept in atrocious conditions. They each had to be shaved. We took 4 of them, and it took us 3 months to turn them around so they could be placed. Yes, there are atrocities, but it has nothing to do with limits. They say that reducing the numbers will ensure better living conditions. That's just not true. It's a fallacy. Then I will close very quickly. Puppies, I think the author had mentioned that terrible conditions for puppies and kittens transported to pet shops. But a lot of this is covered by interstate traffic, not covered by AB 241. There was, and the thing that really concerns us the most is that the HSUS, who supports this bill, is using this as a method of reducing dog and cat ownership in the United States. They had a training seminar back in Rochester, New York this last February where Mr. Patrick Kwan, New York State Director of the HSUS, explained their strategy is to set a cap of 50 intact animals per location. But once this cap is in place, HSUS will strengthen this by lowering the cap each year. He likened it to getting something criminalized as a misdemeanor at first and then increasing it to a felony. HSUS, as this gentleman testified, has introduced other 50 dog limits around the country.
Sir, unless you intend to be the only voice for the opposition,
no, I'm
you might want to
sorry.
conclude.
I will close, and we just hope that the state is not going to preempt the field and have to worry about mandated cost.
Very good. Thank you. Others in support?
In opposition.
I'm sorry, in opposition.
Hi.
And if you could, please keep your comments as succinct as possible.
I will. Mr. Chair and members, I'm Dr. Kay Henderson. I represent the National Animal Interest Alliance, Stelzer Kennel Club of San Diego, and Borzoi Club of California. We concur with Assemblymember Nava that mistreating even one animal is one too many and should not be tolerated. We also oppose the sorts of animal operations that create neighborhood nuisances. This is why California has extensive animal cruelty, animal welfare, and nuisance laws. Assemblymember Nava put forward this bill because he cares about animal welfare. Unfortunately, he equates size of an operation with neglect and substandard care without data to support that the two go hand in hand. There is no inherent correlation between size and care. Without that correlation, AB 241 would forcibly remove well-cared-for animals from good operations, taking away the livelihood of hardworking taxpayers without accomplishing anything worthwhile for either animals or society. With limited resources, animal services would spend their time enforcing state limit laws to the detriment of enforcing the animal cruelty, welfare, and nuisance laws that actually do benefit animals and people. We do not need a new law that discriminates against dog and cat breeders on the basis of numbers, but we need to enforce the existing animal welfare, cruelty, and nuisance laws. Our experience working on animal-related legislation for the past 18 years has taught us that the most effective laws are those that focus on improving care and conditions. Instead, AB 241 seems intent on eliminating an entire class of breeders based solely on the number of dogs or cats they possess, more than 50. Not how well they treat them. This amounts to stereotyping or profiling breeders by the numbers, which will unfortunately catch the good along with the bad, giving no credit to people who work hard to provide healthy, well-bred, socialized pets. This bill treats them all with prejudice, basically persecuting Californians who are long-time law-abiding citizens. Some of the largest animal operations provide excellent care and treatment of their animals, even when compared with smaller operations.
Yeah, I see that.
In a 2008 Nebraska study, which I've attached to the handout that you were provided with, it looks like this. If you would look at that, they divided, the veterinarian who did this study divided them into large, small, and medium-sized operations, and the large were 50 animals to 320 animals. And what they found was that 63% of the largest operations had perfect compliance initially, as compared with 40-some% for the smaller operations. There are three important parts to this study that I'd like you to look at. So the first is that the larger ones were actually better initially. The second is the statement at the bottom. In the state of Nebraska, where they have a lot of large operations, they actually had 48 kennels that were over 50 dogs. Every one of the non-compliant items referenced in these statistics was corrected. So by enforcing the welfare laws, they got 100% compliance in the state of Nebraska. And the third, so they could make change. People wanted to change and do better. And the third is that they strictly enforced animal welfare and cruelty and nuisance laws to make these changes.
Doctor, there are others who'd like to speak, so if you could conclude, please.
Okay. I urge you to not discriminate people on the basis of an invalid criteria. Oppose or abstain on this bill, please. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mary Beth Sacco. I live in Solano County. I'm an ex-animal control officer for the city of Tracy. Back in the 70s, late 70s. More than 30 years later, we have the same problem in animal control with a surplus of pets. I worked very hard firsthand with pet people's ownership practices and problems. I know where the problems come from. This bill is misguided. We all are here for animal rights. We need more enforcement for penal code violations now, and we need some kind of breeder's permit for people that are out there with spay and neuter contracts. I'm one of the, you can't buy a puppy from me if you just want a puppy right now. I mean, I don't know anybody in my breed, which is Shiba Inus, that doesn't have a contract with a mandatory spay and neuter clause in it. Purebred fanciers are one of the hardest working groups to make sure that our dogs don't end up in the pounds, and if they do, we have rescue groups that go get them. This is just a misguided bill. We're all here for the same purpose, and I just hate to see taxpayers' money spent in this area.
Thank you. If we could have name and identification for all the...
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kevin Pedrati representing the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council. I offered to the committee and to the author and the sponsors the amendment that would exempt USDA breeders. We are in a oppose unless amended position with that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lorna Kirby. I represent the International Cat Association. We feel that this bill penalizes thousands of good, reputable breeders by the actions of a few. Breeding there are already laws on the books which this bill does nothing to add to the public safety. It basically is redundant. We have no problems with you increasing the penalties for those who treat animals cruelly, but to put a number which has no reality and basis is not, serves no purpose. Plus the expense that California would have to go to enforce these, force this so-called number. I could just see all the criminal officers going out and going 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not going to happen, particularly in these times of economic crisis. And as a breeder myself, my organization requires that I follow a code of ethics. I cannot get by with doing anything that what these people talk about, what the people in support of the bill have talked about, without basically the International Cat Association putting banning me and or else doing other punitive measures.
Thank you. So again, name and identification. We got to keep the debate balanced. So the opposition has had its time to explain its position. Name and identification, please.
Deanna Liskey. I'm with the Coyote Hills Kennel Club, non-sporting group, Dog Breed, and the Shar-Pei Club of Northern California. Please vote in opposition.
Thank you very much.
My name is Janice Anderson. I represent the Newfoundland Club of America, the Calneva Newfoundland Club, the California Federation of Dog Clubs. Most importantly, I represent myself as serving as a commissioner on the Animal Control Commission for Kern County. And this is an issue that we have been dealing with. Let's call this what it is. It's a limit law, and it is baseless. We've discussed this at the Kern County level, and instead of deciding on limit laws, we chose to make effective changes to our local ordinances to give our animal control officers the teeth that they need to deal with the issues as they arise.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
Name and identification.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bill Gaines. I'm today representing the California Outdoor Heritage Alliance and 30 other conservation, wildlife, hunting, and dog-related organizations. We urge your no vote on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Others in opposition?
Joan Green.
Ms. Green, if you could give your name and identification into the microphone, please.
Joan Green, majored in animal science at UC Davis, minor coursework animal genetics, which means I have training in modern animal husbandry standards that benefit animals and keep the public safe.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Others in opposition?
Also, Chow Fanciers Association, Southern California, Greyhound Club, Northern California.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
Lindaline Cruz, Alameda County, and I am with the Shar-Pei group.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz.
I'd rather stand.
As you
I'm
choose.
Judith Kaufman, president of the California Federation of Dog Clubs. We represent over 40,000 dog owners in this state. Please, do whatever you have to do to enforce the animal abuse and cruelty laws. Limit laws never work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Anybody else who wants to speak in opposition to AB 241? So, Mr. Knopf, a few questions I suspect other committee members may have as well. With regard to the argument that a numerical limit doesn't get to the core of the problem, the trouble that you're trying to correct is one of behavior patterns. So how does the limit get to that? And were you familiar with this particular study that came out of Nebraska?
No. And in fact, part of the difficulty in trying to craft a reasonable compromise is that other than Mr. Pedrati's amendment with respect to USDA facilities, and we'll explain why that would not be acceptable, there's been no language proposed by the opponents. The Nebraska study is news to us. It doesn't look to me as though it was provided to the committee, and unfortunately, there's absolutely no way to attest to the accuracy of its findings, who was retained to conduct the study, the methodology, or any other scientific indicia. This is the first that we've heard about it. I'm going to let the witnesses in support who have direct experience with the issue of number of dogs in these facilities explain why the number 50 is important.
Okay.
First thing is that it's the collective experience of all of the organizations involved in this measure that 50 is a doable number. It's something that has been arrived at with the assistance of breeders, responsible breeders, who have agreed that over 50, we have to have a number someplace, but over 50 is very, very difficult for any person to provide the amount of care that a dog receives. And I think we can look at the fact that animals, the dogs being raised in these situations, they were called farms. When we talk about breeding bitches and socialized dogs, the breeding bitches are not socialized in these situations. We're talking about females that are literally spending their entire lives in a cage under aberrant conditions. No social interaction with human beings other than the food and water they receive on a daily basis, if that, and the shots that they might be given. So there's no socialization as far as those animals are concerned. The 50 has to do with people who can physically take care of the number of breeding animals on that property. It has nothing to do with the offspring that are coming off of the property. So that's really what we're talking about there. And in the states that have already passed this legislation, the ceiling, I think, is 75, but it's up and low on both sides of 50. So,
very good. Tell me, when someone becomes a breeder, can you give me a little bit of information as to what that process looks like? And once one is licensed as a breeder, what kind of oversight does that breeder have that a non-breeder would not have?
Well, I think if we're talking in terms of a responsible breeder, we are talking about...
And I'm going to ask if you could just hold that thought for a moment. We are going to establish our quorum. Could call the roll, please.
Leno.
Here.
Benoit. Here. Cedillo. Hancock. Huff. Here. Steinberg. Wright. Here.
Thank you, committee members. We do have our quorum. Sorry for the interruption. Please proceed. I'm very eager to hear your answer.
Thank you very much. When we're talking about responsible breeders, we're talking about...
Well, no, I want to hear about what's a licensed breeder, number one.
A licensed breeder is a person who would be licensed by the federal government, and that would be as a Class B dealer permitted to sell dogs, or because they sell dogs on an interstate basis. But there are also breeders that are selling via the internet, which is a completely different situation. Many of them are skating under the federal radar, if you will. And
now, they are licensed as breeders by the federal government?
Many unlicensed breeders that are...
I want to know so are there licensed breeders on the internet?
Yes.
And they are licensed?
To the best of our knowledge, there are some licensed breeders on the internet.
Do you want to add to that?
Well, I just want to be clear. Their USDA only requires licenses if you're going to sell through a broker. So they are accurate that there are apparently only about 5 such breeders within California. But there are hundreds of breeders who are not licensed by the USDA because they sell direct to the public, either through the internet or from their property.
And we don't license breeders here in California?
No, we do not. No, we don't. And let me be clear that it is the position of the Humane Society of the United States that USDA licensing does not make a high-volume breeder a non-puppy mill. In fact, many of the places that we deal with in other states where there's a larger USDA licensed set of breeders are some of the worst offenders, and USDA inspections are scant, if at all. So we're not comfortable at all that USDA licensure...
What kind of oversight does the federal government give?
Very limited. They have a small inspector.
Let me add to that.
Sure.
When you take into consideration all of the facilities that fall subject to USDA having to relate with animals, there are 8,300 facilities across the United States. There are 70 inspectors.
Can I add? In the state of California, the Board of Equalization says that a breeder is someone who sells 2 or more dogs or cats, puppy or kitten, a year, and they're supposed to have a seller's permit with the state of California. So
that's for purposes of doing business.
That's as far as doing business, and then the local jurisdiction can have a business license or their own requirements. So that is one thing I wanted to add.
So who is enforcing existing state law with regard to the treatment of animals who are in the care of those who are in the business of breeding and selling?
So it would be
local animal control officers.
So at the local level.
That's why I think it's important that the California Animal Control Directors Association is in support of this legislation. Because what you have now is a patchwork of ordinances that have been adopted on a local level. There's no continuity. There's no consistency between one county and the next. And so it lends itself to erratic enforcement. That's part of what we are trying to do here, is
Sure.
to resolve that.
Has there been any thought of establishing a California breeding license that would be completely self-sustained by the fees that would be imposed upon breeders? I mean, it looks like we don't really have any statewide oversight as to how breeders must perform their operations. And for those who have, the rare ones who have a breeding license from the United States government, there's virtually no oversight whatsoever. That almost seems to be the missing piece. But
I'm happy to do that bill next year.
Let Senator Wright have his say.
The difficulty that I have, I've not heard you establish the count at 50. I mean, again, there may be a guy who has a kennel that does 50, and he has a staff of 200, and he doesn't have them, the breeder bitch, as you called her. I mean, so I'm just saying, you're picking a number, and I don't see anything in the bill that discusses the conditions of the dog. So it seems like you just pulled a number out of the air. I mean, is it 50? Is it 55? Is it 70? Is it 100? So I'm voting no, because you've not made the case to me that 50 makes good sense.
I understand. But, and I think that part of the testimony that was presented earlier with respect to the number 50 is that there are other states that have enacted legislation that have chosen the number 50. There may be another state that has...
That doesn't make it right.
Well, it's like I know that you are an automobile aficionado.
Yes.
And I have no doubt whatsoever that when you drive your car, you provide a level of care, concern, and attention that probably enables you to operate your vehicle in ways that others might not. Like my little Tokyo drift kind of thing going on every once in a while. But you're not going to want everybody else to be able to do that because they're not as conscientious as you. And so while we have speed limits at 35 miles an hour, 25 in a school zone, that as well is an arbitrary determination as to what the speed limit should be.
But no, that's not true. What you just said is factually inaccurate. The reason that there's speed limits is because safety engineers actually went out and measured what you could effectively handle a car at a given speed. So the reason that there's a 25 or a 35 or a 55 is because an engineer did that. The problem I have here is that the number to me is goofy. If you were saying that this is the standard under which you maintain the dog, I could get to that, because at that point, we're not talking about how many dogs you have, but you're talking about the standard under which you keep them. But if you say you can only have 50 dogs, well, what if I build a kennel that's designed to hold 500 dogs?
Senator Wright, what we've seen in the state with the busts that have happened with these puppy mills is that there's only a couple of people who ever work at these facilities. So if you have 200 animals, 400 animals, but there's only 2 people taking care of them in this situation.
Here's my problem.
It's a reasonable
here's why I'm still a no.
Okay.
If there weren't but 2 dogs in the place, and the 2 dogs are being mistreated, the problem is that the dogs are being mistreated. It's not a function of the number, it's a function of the treatment of the dog. I'm not aware that the volume changes the treatment. And you've not made that case to me at all.
Well, we can take you to a puppy mill after this hearing.
I'm not a dog aficionado, but there are people who treat dogs. And again, whether it's 1 dog you mistreat or 50, it doesn't matter. Your problem to me is that you have failed to demonstrate to me, I'm just one person, you failed to demonstrate to me that there's any relevance to the number 50.
There is.
Excuse me, one moment.
Yeah,
We're debating with Senator Wright. It's a no-win situation, and we'll take all morning long. So,
but we'd love to take him on a tour of some facilities.
He has made his point as to why he is in opposition. It was the same question I had asked earlier. One moment, please. We're going to have Senator Benoit, and of course, you're always going to get the final word, Mr. Nava.
And I won't be nearly as eloquent as Senator Wright, but I will say I have problems with the number. It's arbitrary. It has not been well documented that at a particular number a kennel goes from good to bad, and that makes it very difficult for me to understand how we would outlaw legitimate businesses who exceed that particular number.
Thank you, Mr. Benoit. I do want to explore this other amendment, which I believe is in law in other states. You correct me if I'm wrong. The idea being that we want to make sure that these 50 are breedable. So we don't want people who have 10 or 15 or 20 getting pulled in underneath this new proposed law, which really don't meet the 50, but they've got all these little puppies that are being counted to get to the 50 limit. So is that accurate that something like that exists in other state law?
The animals breed after 5 months.
Give me a second here.
Okay.
Well, I understand where the committee is going, and I think that we've addressed why the USDA proposal is one that would not be acceptable because it's not enforced. And
You have explained
it's a
that
mess.
to me. Yeah.
And as it relates to the number 50, we're certainly willing to entertain a conversation about the adult dogs. That carries with it a certain complication because, as the opposition had pointed out, that it's sometimes difficult for an animal control officer to be able to distinguish between a dog that can become pregnant as compared to one that has been neutered. So we chose the number 51 because other states have done it. 2, because it simplifies the work of the animal control officer. But I believe that if we can reach an agreement with respect to the definition of adult that's acceptable, then limiting the facility to 50 adult animals would be appropriate.
I think we're heading in the right direction. We require licensing of dogs. So at the time of licensing, it can be determined whether that dog is intact or not through veterinarian records, right?
Well, my question is whether or not animals in these facilities are licensed, and I don't think they are. They're licensed when they're sold commercially. But when you have a breeding facility, the animals in that location are not licensed.
Though there is current state law, or would be local ordinance that requires those dogs to be licensed?
But not in a breeding facility. It is after they've been sold commercially to a civilian, so to speak, then you have the obligation to license that animal, but not within a breeding facility. For example, pet stores. The animals in pet stores are not licensed because you've got the issue, the license then relates back to the owner. And so if you were to require a license in a breeding facility, the registration would be the owner of the facility, so that when the animal is then sold, you wouldn't be able to track that back to the individual who actually has possession of the animal. I do think the animal control officers are able to exercise their professional judgment as it relates to the age of an animal. There are some indicia, for example, the condition of the teeth, the size and weight of the animal that can be used to render a professional determination as to the age.
Well, I think that gets us a good step in the right direction. I do have some of the concerns that have been expressed by some of my colleagues. I am going to support the bill today. I would like that we agree upon that amendment of, if not breedable, 50 adult dogs.
That's acceptable. I'll take that as an author's amendment.
Okay. And I know that you have a few other bills here today that we're about to discuss as well, but I think the discussion has, at least in my mind, clarified that we really do need a breeding structure in this state that we just don't have. And that would get to the concerns of Senator Wright as well, because once you have a license that you don't want to lose, and there would be inspectors that would come to your facility paid for by your fees to have that license, we would then have the inspection to make sure that the quality of care is what you're trying to get at. So right. I know that's another conversation, another bill, probably another year, but something that I would suggest that we be seriously looking at. Because I am sympathetic to some of the oppositional voices that stepped forward today. And so if you would like to make your close as brief as possible.
Well, accepting the Chair's recommendations as author's amendments would ask for an aye vote.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nava. Thank all those who came to testify today, both in support and opposition. And we could have a motion by the Chair, but I think, Senator Cedillo, are you prepared to make a motion? All right, we have a motion by Senator Cedillo, and we will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye. As amended. It's proposed to be amended.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
No.
Benoit, no. Cedillo?
Aye, as amended.
Cedillo, aye. Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright? Wright, no.
We will place the bill on call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. AB 242, item number 4.
Nowhere near as contentious. As you're aware, dogfighting is a sadistic contest in which two dogs, specifically bred, conditioned, and trained to fight, are placed in a pit to fight each other for the spectators' entertainment and gambling. Fights average nearly an hour in length, often go as long as 2 hours. They end only when one of the dogs will not or cannot continue. It's estimated there are 40,000 people involved in this conduct, resulting in injury or death to nearly 250,000 dogs annually. Law enforcement projects that at least 100,000 additional persons participate in street-level dogfights. Make no mistake, spectators actually provide much of the profits associated with dogfighting. The money generated by admission fees and gambling help to perpetuate this crime. And because dogfights are illegal and therefore not widely publicized, spectators do not merely stumble onto a dogfight. They deliberately seek them out. What AB 242 does is increase the penalties associated with misdemeanor spectatorship at a dogfight in California. So it doesn't elevate it to a felony. This is a misdemeanor. It goes now from 6 months to a year and from $1,000 to $5,000 maximum fine. I'm proud to be here today with the Humane Society of the United States to strengthen the penalties associated with this cruel crime and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Welcome back.
Mr. Chairman, again, Eric Sakich, representing the Humane Society of the United States. We're urging your aye vote on AB 242, which would increase the jail time and fines for knowingly being a spectator at a dogfight in California. Sadly, California's dogfighting law is ranking currently 43rd nationwide, due in great part to our weak penalties for being a spectator. Currently, 22 states have felony penalties for being a spectator. All of the states contiguous to California have felony statutes for being a spectator, which automatically makes our state a more attractive venue for this sort of thing. And make no mistake, spectators help to finance these operations through their admission fees and their bets. They attend the dog fights for the primary purpose of gambling on the outcome of the fights. They are knowing participants who must be invited to attend these events. They're frequently caravanned to the site. They may be required to submit to a variety of security measures to weed out undercover law enforcement officers. And it's the admission fees that make these so lucrative for fight organizers. Police in Detroit recently raided a fight where spectators paid an admission fee of $100 just to attend the event. Many of these involve tens of thousands of dollars changing hands. In one event that when I was working undercover, I attended one event in Arkansas a number of years ago, at which 250 people were caught at the site when the event was raided by the Arkansas State Police and the Organized Crime Task Force for that region. $250,000 retrieved off the, or $500,000 retrieved off the 250 people that were present at that event. $40,000 just for one contract. When the police raid an event, one of the first things that happens among spectators in a state like ours is that they attempt to blend in with those people that are there as spectators, knowing that the penalties are weaker.
I mean, the organizers. The organizers try to blend in.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it makes it very difficult for law enforcement to weed out which ones are actually knowing involved.
Thank you. Others in support?
John Lovell with California Peace Officers Association, California Police Chiefs Association. I'll be very quick. My colleague made an important reference. He referred to the Arkansas Organized Crime Task Force. These dogfighting enterprises are not throw together things conducted by the guest list from the Jerry Springer show. These are very well organized criminal operations, and the spectators are every bit a part of that criminal operation as the organizer. They, in fact, are the engine that drives the operation.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Lovell. In support?
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizotto on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office in support. Without the betting and the spectators, dogfighting wouldn't exist. By increasing the penalties, we hope to discourage people from attending these events and thereby helping to reduce the incidence of dogfighting in California. Yes, for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Filizotto.
Barbara Schmitz on behalf of the ASPCA and its 130,000 California members, as well as Born Free USA, in support.
Thank you, Ms. Schmitz.
Christian Foy on behalf of the City of Long Beach in support for this bill, which seeks to eliminate the practice of dogfighting by increasing the penalties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association in support.
Thank you, sir. And if you could vacate your seats once you have testified so others can join the table. Yes, Senator Wright. Okay, we have a motion by Senator Wright, if you could. Name and identification, please.
Bill Hemby, representing PetPAC. We're in support of the bill.
Great, thank you, sir.
Virginia Hanley, PAWPAC, in support.
Thank you.
Judith Kaufman, California Federation of Dog Clubs. We wholeheartedly support.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Jennifer Fearing on behalf of the California Animal Association in support.
Great.
Janice Anderson, multiple organizations. We support this in the sake of the animals.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Anyone else in support of Assemblyman Nava's AB 242? Any opposition? Please step forward. If not, we have a motion on the bill. Any closing statement?
Sass for an aye vote.
Very good. We'll call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright? Wright, aye.
You have 3 votes. We have some missing members. We'll place that bill on call.
Thank you.
And so your third and last bill with us is item number 5, AB 243.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. This is the Animal Cruelty Prevention Act. The analysis indicates that there's opposition from the Farm Bureau and other agricultural groups. However, there are amendments noted on page 10 that have been drafted by the sponsor, the LADA's office, to address concerns of the agricultural groups. It's my understanding, with the acceptance of these amendments, that the opposition will be removed. What this bill does is California law states that as a condition of probation, a court may order a person convicted of certain animal-related crimes and placed on probation to be prohibited from owning, possessing, or having contact with animals. However, a court has no ability to issue a no-ownership order for defendants convicted of felony animal cruelty offenses who are sentenced to state prison. What this bill does, it makes it mandatory for a judge to prohibit a person convicted of specified animal-related crimes from owning or possessing, caring for, or having any contact with animals for a specific period of time. This is an answer that law enforcement requests have made. It provides local police and animal control authorities with the tools they need to enforce animal cruelty laws in California. We have witnesses in support: Deborah Kanan, Deputy District Attorney with the LADA's office, and Madeline Bernstein, the Executive Director of SPCA Los Angeles, and others.
Thank you, Assemblyman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Philizot on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. We are the sponsor of this bill. This bill would provide individuals who are convicted of misdemeanor animal cruelty charges would be prohibited from owning or possessing, controlling animals for a 5-year period. If it's a felony conviction, it would be a 10-year period. We put in amendments to address some concerns expressed when the bill is in the Assembly. We have amendments that would require if an individual is a farmer, agriculture, livestock raiser, that it would be up to the district attorney to prove that imposition of this penalty upon them would not create an undue burden for them. It also has an amendment that would allow individuals who are convicted and are prohibited from owning animals to petition the court if they've satisfied specific requirements to have that period lowered at the discretion of the court.
Thank you, Mr. Philizotto. I'm sure we'll hear soon, but your understanding is that does remove opposition.
Actually, there's a representative here who can address that.
We'll get there. Thank you.
John Lovell, California Peace Officers Association, California Police Chiefs, in support.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell. Ms. Schmitz.
Barbara Schmitz on behalf of the SPCA and its 130,000 California members, as well as Born Free USA, in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Madeline Bernstein, president of SPCA Los Angeles, also representing State Humane Association of California. We're thankful for this bill. We thank the DA's office, and we're in support.
Thank you, Ms. Bernstein.
Noelle Kramers, the California Farm Bureau Federation. Initially, when the bill was introduced, we believed that there would have been some unintended consequences for California's livestock owners. We would really like to thank the author and sponsors for their diligence in working with us, and the amendments that are taken today allow us to remove our opposition.
That's good to hear. Thank you. So if you have testified, if you please could relinquish your seats so the others in support can identify themselves.
Bill Hemby with PetPAC. We're in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Logan Christian Foy on behalf of the City of Long Beach, in support.
Thank you.
Eric Zakish, Humane Society of the United States, in strong support.
Thank you, sir.
Virginia Hadley, PAWPAC, in support.
Thank you. Senator Wright.
The question about the opposition, are the Thoroughbred Breeders Association, did that?
The question is if the thoroughbred breeders are still in opposition or not.
Okay, move the bill, Mr. Chair.
They are not. We have a motion as amended by Senator Wright. Any other comments from the committee? Well, thank you for working with the opposition Assemblyman and for reaching agreement. If you'd like to make a closing statement.
Ask for an aye vote.
Very good, thank you. And just want to express my appreciation. These are always challenging waters to venture into. We know that people take their animals very dearly as family, and to deal with a number of the issues that you have in your package of bills today. Thank you for your courage and for your thoughtfulness.
I had a lot of help.
All right. We will call the roll. And this is as amended.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
Aye.
Wright,
Again,
aye.
we will place the bill on call. Thank you, Assemblyman Nava.
Thank you much.
Assemblyman Solorio, welcome to our committee. You have two bills with us today. The first one is item number 6, AB 275, which I believe has no opposition, and then item number 8, AB 320. We'll start with number 6, item 275.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill will remove the sunset provision of a $2 fee on death certificates, thus ensuring continued funding for the Department of Justice's Missing Persons DNA program.
Motion, go right ahead.
This bill, similar to last year's bill, bipartisan support, was vetoed by the governor. We took out the point of concern to the governor. I ask for your support.
And want to tell the committee what that concern was?
Sure. Last year's bill had a requirement to accelerate the submission of DNA samples. That was felt to be a mandate or an additional burden that the governor wanted out, so we have taken that piece out of this bill.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Those in support of the bill?
Ken Pogue from the Attorney General's Office. We're the sponsor of this bill. We'd like to thank Assemblymember Solorio for his hard work on this bill, running it 2 years in a row. We have addressed the concerns of the Governor's Office, and we have been in contact with the Governor's Office representatives to confirm that. I have Mike Case, administrator of the program, here if you have any specific questions.
Thank you, sir. Others in support?
Nick Warner, California State Sheriff Association, in support.
Thank you.
John Lovell, California Police Chiefs Association, California Peace Officers Association, California Narcotic Officers Association, all in support.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office in support.
Thank you, Mr. Filizzato.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Elizabeth Howard on behalf of the California State Association of Counties, also in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Mr. Chairman, members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association, in support.
Thank you, Mr. Salzillo. Anyone else in support of Mr. Solario's bill? Again, I don't believe there is any opposition, but if there is, please step forward. We have a motion by Senator Wright. If you'd like to make your closing statement.
Just briefly, if this bill doesn't move forward, we'll need to use general fund dollars to pay for this legally mandated program rather than this special fund. So given we don't have any general fund dollars, this would be a better path. I ask for your support.
Great. We'll call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
No.
Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
Aye.
Wright, aye.
We'll place that bill on call, Mr. Solorio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And move on to item number 8, AB 320.
Very good. Thank you, Chair and members. This bill is a follow-up to AB 900 from last session, which authorized $7.4 billion in lease revenue bond financing for the construction of 40,000 new state prison beds, largely infill beds, and 13,000 new county jail beds, and that's really the focus of this bill. Under current law for those county jail beds, many counties were not awarded county jail funding. due to the many requirements tied to the process. Large urban counties with limited available land did not receive their conditional awards because of siting issues or operational constraints, and some of the small counties were not able to participate because in this economic downturn, the match requirement was particularly difficult for them. There's currently still available for county jail bed funding $164 million for this Phase 1 and an additional $470 million for Phase 2. This bill would provide another eligibility option for counties that apply or reapply for AB 900 by granting equal preference if they help the state site a state reentry facility, which is current law, or as the bill proposes, if the county provides reentry services in their own county facilities. This bill is an important step in making sure that more counties provide reentry facilities at the local level. I would like to acknowledge the committee's mocked up amendments. I accept them all as author's amendments with a couple of exceptions. Number one, in subdivision B up at the top and then C below, we make mention of providing existing beds. So in subsection B there towards the top, B1, third line facilities or providing existing beds. We should take out existing since we're not talking about, per your next item I'm going to discuss, we're talking about new construction. I want to not create an issue between existing versus newly constructed beds. So there's two references of existing which need to be taken out. And that's really more of a technical item. The main issue that I have with the proposed amendments is on Section 3, item C under that. My preference really would be that through the RFP process, CDCR and the California Standards Authority create all the regulations for who would be eligible rather than in statute placing this. I think this places just additional hurdles. But in the event that we do need something like this, I do understand the committee's and the chair's thoughts on this. I would, after having talked to various stakeholders, and they'll speak to it, if we were to have something like this in this bill, I would propose rather than an equal number of reentry versus regular use beds, that instead it might be a minimum of 25% of the beds or 250 beds. Again, keep in mind this is just kind of the minimum threshold for counties to compete for funding. We saw from the early phases that on other items, to be competitive, they had larger amounts. I think by doing the 25%, it helps with scale, so that smaller counties can be able to compete, as well as just by economies of scale, a county may not have a large area to build these facilities, that we need some flexibility.
We have a motion, but this is still a work in progress, so we'll hold that motion for now. And Senator Hancock asked questions.
Maybe if we can have my witness to speak, I know they have some.
Have your presenters have an opportunity to express their support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Nick Warner on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. Just a very brief few sentence history on AB 900 and why it passed out of this legislature on a bipartisan basis. To see Democrats in this legislature support a building program for jails and prisons and support it, I think, is significant. And to see Republicans come together and support the core programs that we need inside the walls of both the prisons, the jails, and then to focus on reentry, to our mind, was one of the most significant pieces of legislation ever to come out of this legislature. But it was a piece of paper. It's been really, really difficult at best to see this thing to fruition, both because of budget delay, because of NIMBY issues, because of operational issues, match requirements, so on and so forth. The theory behind AB 320 and what we're so excited about in concept, and we'd like to be part of the discussions both here live in the committee and ongoing, is there are lots of different ways to do reentry. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a standalone, some use the term mini prison. That's a good construct for sure, where they come out 12 months before their sentence, they start to meet their parole agent, they meet their service providers, they find out where job potential is. That's a really good construct. There's other ways to do it. You can start to do it inside county jails. For example, in San Francisco, that's happening now. It's happening in contract beds around the state, in Merced, and in other places. That's a good construct as well. So when AB 320 was introduced, and we had also been having conversations with Secretary Cate about the notion of different ways to do reentry to get to the same place by using different constructs, that really got the sheriffs excited. AB 320, you mentioned it was a work in progress. I'm not exactly sure what I'm commenting on in terms of the exact amendments. I'd like to reserve the right, if you'll allow me to come back and comment on the questions that are asked. But one of the concerns that I have of some of the amendments, both that are suggested and that have been discussed with the interested parties, is to put a firm number of 500 beds or otherwise on the small and medium-sized counties. Geographically, right now, we have one county in the Central Valley, a couple counties in the Central Coast, and several counties in Southern California who have either been awarded what I'll call monopoly money for AB 900 with the intent to actually build reentry facilities. And you've got no counties north of Sacramento with any hope, quite frankly, of getting into this reentry program. And so to the extent we're going to put the bar so high that they can't actually take advantage of it, we've got concerns about that. But again, just to kind of set the stage for the discussion, we're hugely supportive of anything that authorizes both state and local corrections officials to work with our partners in health and human services, drug treatment, counseling, parole, to do a better job in reentry planning. And so from there, I'll turn it over to my colleagues, but I'd like to reserve the right to come back and comment on.
Thank you. Of course, Mr. Warner. And before we move forward, let me make a couple comments. Just want to slightly amend, if not correct, your statement that as a Democrat, and I know I'm looking at another one who voted for AB 900, it was not to build new prisons. And AB 900 will not build any new prisons. And I've had to bat that back any number of times in my own district. We're going to build beds. We're not building new prison facilities. So I would not have supported such a thing. And yes, it was a compromise solution so that we could address the need for beds both at the state and local level, and finally get some real teeth into the rehabilitation programs that we know will be the key to reducing our recidivism rate, which is sky high. So just want to make that comment. Since Ms. Hayhoe is here from the department, I wanted just to see if we can get some clarity as to what, in fact, the situation is. We've heard from the author and from Mr. Warner that some of these smaller counties just can't comply with the 500-bed requirement for reentry purposes if they're going to get the funding preference that is in AB 900. If you could just correct information I have, if it is accurate or not, that there are currently 11 counties who have gotten the funding preference, and that's for a net gain of 5,300 jail beds. And each of those 11 counties, and I'll read off which ones they are: San Bernardino, San Joaquin, Kern, Santa Barbara, San Diego, San Luis Obispo, Yolo, Madera, Calaveras, Amador, and San Benito. So these are some larger, some much smaller, and they all agreed to the 500-bed reentry requirement.
Yes, Joyce Hayhoe, Assistant Secretary for the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. You're right, 11 counties initially did sign agreements with us to receive the funding preference in exchange for participating with us for reentry. Some of those counties have since fallen out. I think the one that has just happened, for instance, is Yolo, which is a small county. They agreed to site a 500-bed facility with us, but the site that they had originally proposed did not work for us, and the subsequent site that they gave to us was turned down by their local members of the City Council. So at this point, Yolo is still in the process of being able to get the funding back if they give us an additional site.
Very good.
What we are doing, however, with the small counties is we are very much encouraging the small counties to form regional consortiums, especially with the contiguous counties, where they would agree for siting purposes to site a facility within one county that would serve a number of counties. And we have done this with Santa Barbara, San Benito, and San Luis Obispo County. We are building a 500-bed facility in San Luis Obispo County, and with San Joaquin, Calaveras, and Amador County, who had agreed to put a facility in Stockton. So So in terms of small counties, whereas one small county may not be able to support a 500-bed facility, we were very much encouraging small counties to form regional partnerships where we could have a 500-bed facility and then provide them with the funding preference.
And the language in AB 900 gives you the discretion and the flexibility to be able to do that administratively?
Yes, we can do that administratively,
Great. So,
currently under our RFP.
So each of these 11, now 10 counties are not actually doing 500 beds themselves?
That is correct.
In 2 instances, 3 counties are coming together to take on the responsibility of those 500?
That is correct.
Okay. So I just want to, and then do you have any other pending counties that are considering or near to meeting the requirements of AB 900 as currently stated?
We are right now in the process of reissuing an RFP for the additional Phase 1 money, which is $164 million that is left over. We do have some counties right now that are small counties that are talking among themselves to possibly enter into partnerships to receive the funding for us siting a facility and building a facility. I don't necessarily want to go out public today to talk about that, but there has been some discussion among some of the counties to do that.
Okay. So with all that said, with the 10 that are confirmed and 6 of those 10 in 3 county compacts in 2 situations, we have compliance with this 500 reentry bed requirement. So as we continue this conversation today, what I don't want to do is communicate to those counties that have already done the right thing to step forward and participate in our AB 900 program and let them feel like they're suckers. Because if they'd only held out longer, like Los Angeles or Orange County, they're not going to have to comply with the original intent and requirements of 900. And that's where I don't want to go.
Right. I would only make there 2 quick points, then we'll continue with my witness, hopefully. Number one, some of those smaller counties don't have really the wherewithal or interest in running a reentry facility or the programming, so they're actually happy to have the state do it. The other thing I would point out, under the way that AB 900 is currently run in those cases that have been mentioned, that money is coming from a separate pot of money. So the county is not having to take essentially from its own financial commitment to build a reentry. Here what we're actually doing is saying, oh, the money we give you, you got to do reentry as part of that. So that's the other differentiation as well.
That's true.
Ms. Aho, you want to comment to that?
Well, counties would have a choice. You can either have the state build a facility and we would run it, and so the county would not lose any money that way. Or if they wanted to build their own facility under the proposal and allow that to be county operated, that would also be a choice. So I think in terms of what the department is looking for is we are looking for reentry beds that provide services and programming to our offenders.
Right. And in the 10 counties that we've already confirmed are participating in the original AB 900 scheme, are they spending their own money, or this is
all state money?
This is all state money.
This is money that the legislature set aside to build reentry facilities.
Okay. And so, just one moment. Everyone will have their say. So I very much in support of the original comments of Mr. Warner, which is that there are a variety of ways that we can best reach the goal of these reentry beds. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So I think we want to see language in this bill reflect that you could do it in a variety of ways. And I think that's your intent as well.
That's correct. And I think I think there's some other witnesses.
Right before we get to the other witnesses, I know Senator Benoit has a comment or question, and then everyone will get to say a word.
I think you mentioned a figure of $164 million. Can you give me an idea, what was the original amount of money in 900 for this specific program? What percentage of it has been allocated to date?
For Phase 1, there was $750 million, so the bulk of that has been awarded.
So $586 million for those 10 counties, and then the other $164 million gets us to $750.
Right. Now, in Phase 2, which we are allowed to go to Phase 2 and provide additional funding after we've cited a number of jail beds and reentry, we have an additional $470 million So there is significant money still available to counties who help the state in reaching our goal for siting and encouraging reentry throughout the state.
Well, let me just say that I supported AB 900. My biggest concern has been that we expected those beds to be built some time ago. We're several years down the path now. Our original guidelines may have been a little bit overly optimistic in that regard. And certainly there were some counties that saw problems with the original outline. We need to work to make this work, get as many of these beds built as soon as possible. I'll be supporting the bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. So we'll go back to your witnesses, Assemblyman.
Holly Fermini on behalf of the Orange County Board of Supervisors. And I just want to clarify that the problems with the siting of the facility has been the siting, not the number of beds actually has never been in question at this point. It's been their original proposal did include reentry beds at an existing facility, but the problem has been that the department has been prohibited from even considering those creative alternatives that counties like Orange were trying to bring to the table during the discussion. So what this bill is trying to do is create more options for the department, more options for our proposals, because AB 900 does restrict us because of the local approval requirements. The City of Orange passed a resolution that refused to allow us to place those reentry beds in our existing Theo Lacy facility. So our only alternative in a county like Orange that has primarily incorporated areas, we have very limited site locations to choose from. So the existing music facilities are really our only alternative. So that's where we'd like to put the reentry beds at the existing facility, but we've been prohibited by existing law from them even to consider that as an option. So all this bill is trying to do is to create more options for the department to consider when they're putting this out to bid so that we can quickly get more reentry beds. We have the same concern, our board as you do, about more prisons in the state. More prisons in Orange County is not popular, just like in your district. But more reentry beds has always been part of our proposal. There's never been in LA or Orange County a proposal that was put forward that did not include reentry beds.
Good. And again, just to restate where I think we're getting clearer and clearer what the debate is about, we want to support Assemblyman Solario's bill today because we want to give Orange County and other counties a greater option as to how to provide the reentry beds. But the problem is, as the bill was originally provided, it just said reentry facilities or providing beds, and that could mean as few as 2. And that's the problem. We don't want to see someone get funding preference for just a county just providing 2 or 3 or 5. We especially because how unfair it would be to the 10 counties that Ms. Hayhoe has already identified.
No county, I don't think, received any money that didn't include reentry beds in the initial awards that were out there. You only were giving the funding to people who did require it. Anybody else, a lot of people didn't even apply.
And that's prior to this bill. So we want to make sure this bill doesn't allow for a very small number of beds to get that preference. So others in support?
John Lovell, California Police Chiefs, California Peace Officers, California Narcotic Officers, all in support.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell.
Good morning. Lieutenant Wayne Billowit on behalf of Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We kind of envision doing what San Francisco is doing with reentry, only on a larger scale. So we urge your support. Thank you,
Lieutenant.
Craig Branford, California Correctional Peace Officers Association. We think reentry is an absolutely critical part of the function. Anything you can do to move it along helps. Obviously, AB 900 wasn't that vehicle. As Senator Benoit pointed out, what we told the legislature at that time has come true. Nothing's been built 2+ years later. We hope this bill fixes the problem, at least as it phases the reentry.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else wish to speak in support before we get back to Mr. Warner? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? All right, Mr. Warner, you wanted to add something?
Just really quick clarification, and then I'll get out of the way for the time being anyways.
Sure.
We have received no money. No money has been awarded. CDCR is giving counties no money. The state is not giving counties any money. The only money out there to date is county money, planning money, architectural review money, money on top of money, and we are barely hanging on to the counties where we can keep the board and the citizenry, if you will, engaged and at bay. Yolo County is a perfect example. We just ran out of time. And the folks who didn't want to site a reentry facility there eventually got their way. But I just need to clarify for the record, we have not received any money from corrections. I'm not suggesting it's their fault. I just need to clarify. It's all county good faith money right now to try to make this work.
Okay, and Ms. Hayhoe, where is this $586 million in the pipeline right now?
Right now, we are in the process of working with the counties and with the Public Works Board, who right now is not generally in the position to be providing funding through the bonds that have been awarded to the state. However, in terms of where we are with each county, counties have to agree to provide us with a reentry site, and we have to go through the process of determining that the site is feasible, that the site is available, and that the site is buildable. And in doing that, we have to get to a point where we can go to the Public Works Board and tell the Public Works Board, we have been through our due diligence, we know we can build here, we're ready to build. And once that happens, then the counties will be able to get their money.
Very good. And Senator Hancock.
Thank you. I have a number of questions about this. I think this is absolutely moving in the right direction, and I'm going to be happy to support it today. But I was looking at the counties that had applied. There did seem to me to be many of them fairly rural counties. I noticed that the two counties I represent, Alameda and Contra Costa, which have major challenges with returning parolees, have not applied for the money. And I'm interested in how we might need to make AB 900 available to them as well. And I wondered if you could comment, Ms. Hayhoe. I mean, is 500 beds too large for already built-out, very urbanized counties, in which I know in Alameda County, our county jail, I believe, is absolutely full, so we couldn't use existing beds, and they do a lot of innovative programming, unless we could build another facility on the grounds of that county prison, county jail. So have you looked at the possibility of smaller in-town facilities that would really accomplish the goal of the police department and the parolee working together?
Well, there's a couple things I can say. Number one is I'm not really sure where Alameda and Contra Costa is in terms of their need for new jail beds. So they may not have applied under AB 900 because maybe they weren't in the position of wanting to build a jail. So therefore, they wouldn't want to take advantage of this process that we have. In terms of the 500-bed facilities, we very much believe that large counties are the ones that provide us with the most inmates, and therefore we do have the capacity to have that many inmates going back into their county where they could serve the last 12 months of their sentence and provide them with reentry services before they are released. If a county does not want to build a jail and they want to be providing reentry services outside of AB 900, there are other mechanisms for us to do that, such as San Francisco, where we had gone to San Francisco and looked at partnering with their Back on Track program to provide a very, very small reentry program, which I believe was about 64 beds. So there are a couple different ways that we could go.
I would just add to that. The comments you raised were exactly why I wanted to introduce this. Some of the counties that have the most need, there are too many strings attached with the existing setup, as well as with respect to the number of beds and why that wasn't specified. I was waiting for CDCR to provide its own proposal on what that should be. A couple of days ago, they finally did come back, and what they preferred is just say up to 500 beds, which is what current law says for the state facilities. Given that, some counties, they don't have the space or the real estate costs involved, that could be something done through the RFPs, which is how it was done before. But again, working with the committee and the chair, maybe instead it's a minimum of 25% of the beds or 250 beds, just as a minimum base, just to have your counties apply, or else they won't. We may come up with 500 and it may be too high a threshold, and then again, counties with need won't be able to apply.
I'm very concerned about that.
Sure. So I think we're getting closer. Ms.
I
Hayhoe,
also have one other concern.
Oh, go right ahead.
The substance abuse treatment, mental health care, academic and vocational education were part of AB 900. Current budget proposals are talking about cutting $175 million from corrections and rehabilitation services. What is the status of actually being able to provide these reentry services so that people can make it in the real world.
Well, AB 900 requires that when we open a reentry facility, that our offenders must be provided with education, vocational, and substance abuse treatment. So irrespective of what is happening right now in the budget cuts in our regular prisons, when reentry facilities are opened, those facilities, by law, are required to provide services to the inmates.
So what does that mean? That you would take services out of state prisons and put them into rehab, reentry facilities, or how would that act? The money has to come from somewhere.
Well, right now what is happening is we have a certain budget amount that a target, depending on whether it's a conference committee proposal or the administration's proposal. Okay. We have a certain amount of money that we have to cut out of our prisons. When we open a reentry facility, we would be proposing what the operational costs would be for that facility, and of course it would be subject to the legislature's budget request during any normal year.
Okay, what does that actually mean? I'm sorry.
Well,
does that mean there would be mental health, substance abuse, and education?
Yes, and we would be telling you how much it was going to cost when we opened it.
And would it come out of the bond money, the AB 900 bond money, which did set aside something like $50 million, but that isn't going to last forever in all these facilities? Or would it be taken from existing programs that are still operating in state prisons?
It would be a general fund request, and it would be up to the legislature to decide whether the department got additional money or whether we would have to take it out of what we already have. So we wouldn't be making that choice. The legislature would be making the choice. Our proposal would be that additional money would be provided to the department to provide the services on top of what we're already doing during that ever given budget year. So if during that year we were providing services to 50% of our inmates in prisons, we would be asking for money on top of that to open the reentry facility and provide services to our offenders.
Okay, and as of right now, we haven't opened any, so we're not sure how that would be. I just want to flag for the chair, this is going to be an issue because the services were an integral part of what was supposed to be happening during that reentry year.
Yes, without a doubt. And I just wanted to, I've got a couple questions from Ms. Aho. The requirements of AB 900 relative to your moving to phase 2.
Yes.
How real do these education, rehabilitation, drug and alcohol services have to be for you to legally move forward to phase 2? They have to be in place, they have to be funded, they have to be what?
Well, to go to phase 2 for the jail funding, there are only 2 requirements under AB 900 that we have to meet. The first requirement is that 400 jail beds have to be under construction or sited. And the second requirement is that 2,000 reentry beds have to be under construction or sited. So because we have the proposals already for the jails and the proposals for reentry, we believe that we have those many beds that are already in the siting process.
Is my memory so faulty that there's no requirement for any kind of rehabilitation programs to be in place to move to phase 2?
No, your memory is not faulty. Those are the requirements for the Department of Corrections to go to phase 2 for building our additional infill beds. And there are the 13 requirements, some of which you remember, which are that we have to have a certain number of treatments, programs, that we have to have education programs to a certain level. Those 13 requirements are what we have to meet in order to get to our phase 2 money for building additional infill beds.
And those 13 requirements impact state prisoners or those who will be going into the reentry facilities?
Those are the state prisoner. We have to meet those requirements for state prisoners.
For state prisoners. And that's dependent upon an appropriation by the legislature?
Correct.
And the governor proposed cutting $750 million in rehabilitation programs in his budget. It sounds like it will never happen.
That is the proposal.
That's this governor.
But if the legislature doesn't provide that appropriation for the fact that we're busted, you can't move to phase 2.
There would be possibilities for us to look at other ways to provide services in our prisons. I'm not saying that we would be able to meet those. Obviously, it would be very hard. We could look at doing some things with volunteers to provide services, which we're
and this
still
issue
doing.
is extraneous to your bill, so I don't
That
want
is
to I don't want to go too far down that path, but I do want to make the statement
Yes.
that I know I voted for it. I suspect Ms. Hancock voted for AB 900 because we were going to see those 13 requirements implemented, funded and implemented before phase 2 could proceed. So I know I will be keeping a very close eye on this, and it's not your fault. It's just that if the governor wants to starve the state for cash, then these things cannot go forward.
We have the 13 benchmarks. We've met many of those benchmarks. We're close on the other benchmarks. Some of the benchmarks that we're close on, we may have to look and see what happens in the coming years with regard to our funding on whether we can meet those
so
benchmarks.
I want to get back on track here.
Right.
So
One quick point on this. With respect to reentry services, I would say that the counties would be in a better position to provide better reentry services and a better cost than the state. And again, this proposal would require the counties to provide those reentry services rather than relying on the state, and that's another benefit for this route as well.
So you had already shared with us that the department has some significant discretion as to how you implement the requirements of AB 900 as far as even going to allow for 3 county agreements to be made to reach the 500-bed requirement. So do you need additional language in this bill so that any variety of beds that would be used for reentry, or do you have that discretion already? For example, in let's say a difficult county that just doesn't have the wherewithal, whether it be rural or urban, but probably small, could even be large, Orange County that can't cite. You have the discretion to give them preferential points or not, as AB 900 is currently written?
As AB 900 is currently written, we have the discretion through our RFP process to put together requirements for them to meet the RFP in order to get the preference points.
So you don't really need language that would say, for example, as the author has proposed, 25% of the new jail beds must be reentry or 250. You can do that on your own right now.
What we don't need, and that's correct.
To give them the preference.
That's correct. What we don't need is we don't need something that takes that power away from us.
Right.
And we would be concerned about
Another
that.
way of saying that is that Section C is really the piece that I think they can implement. What we're wanting to do without that 3 subsection C. They'd be able to look at, need in the area, available space. Are there other reentry facilities? Again, the CDCR, they just want to be able to know up to 500 beds.
Mr. Warner, and then I'm going to make a concluding statement.
Thank you. Just
because we need to get moving.
A clarifying point on the nuance of what Ms. Hayo says, and that is that I believe the department, I know the department does need clarifying language in order for the reentry beds to be inside a county jail. Right. They don't for the regionalization, as evidenced by the 6 counties you referenced. But we have to have the language in 320 that authorizes reentry to take place in a county jail.
And Nick's definitely
you don't
correct.
have right now. That discretion you don't have right now. Thank you for that
and that was the whole purpose for AB 320.
Since we're going to have to get this meeting concluded at some point, we have authors that we're keeping waiting. I'm going to put this bill on hold for the rest of the meeting. I'm going to ask that you reconvene, and we're going to come up with some language that's going to suit all of the issues that have been raised.
Very good.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for all of your hard work on this, Mrs. Slaughter.
No, thank you for your time. Let's keep the hope alive. Thank you.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there. I know Mr. Cook is here and Mr. Furutani as well. I think if we could ask Mr. Cook that we take Mr. Furutani first. There's no opposition to his bill. I think it'll go rather quickly. I have to step out for just a moment. I'm going to pass the gavel to our Vice Chair, Senator Benoit, and I will be back for Mr. Cook's bill. Thank you.
All right. This is item 9, AB 504. Mr. Furutani, please present your bill.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, committee. It's with great pleasure that I present AB 504, a bill that will enhance the training and education of peace officers, the education they receive on the topic of the Sikh faith, specifically as it relates to interacting with persons carrying a kirpan. A kirpan is a ceremonial sheathed dagger. In California, which is the home of the largest population of Sikhs nationwide, Sikhs carry their kirpan may be arrested and charged with violating concealed weapon laws despite the benign intent of carrying it. While there are no known cases of prosecution, a lack of education of our police officers on the religious significance of the kirpan has led to needless arrests, not to mention humiliation of Sikhs who are law-abiding citizens simply practicing their faith. AB 504 seeks to balance the Sikh community's right to the free exercise of their religion with the government's interest in maintaining public safety. Through increased training of law enforcement on how to interact with Sikhs carrying a kirpan, we hope this will be achieved. I'm pleased to report that the Police Officers Standards and Training Commission, POST, has a neutral position on the bill. We have been working closely with them and thank them very much for their cooperation. The bill has been unanimously supported in both the Policy and Fiscal Committees in the Assembly. I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I have with me witnesses that will testify as well.
Thank you. And keeping with the custom of the committee, we'll have two substantive witnesses and then ask for the others to identify themselves and state their position that might want to testify. So would you let us know who your two...
Natasha, if you could start.
I'll just ask. We have one witness who's traveled from Los Angeles to be here. If we could ask him to
Great.
start. Thank you.
Respectable committee members, my name is Daljit Singh Anchal. I'm currently 20 years old and work at a gas station in Burbank, California. When I was 18 years old, I was a victim of law enforcement's lack of knowledge in regards to the kirpan. After getting off of work late at night, I went to meet my older brother and his friends at a subway near the Burbank airport. While they were inside, I went out to my car and was confronted by a police officer around 11 p.m. He asked me if I was carrying a weapon. I explained to him that I was wearing a kirpan, which is a Sikh article of faith. He asked me why I was wearing the kirpan underneath my jacket, and I explained to him that I was wearing a jacket because it was cold. As the police officer was questioning me, many police cars had arrived. Since the police officer was unaware of the kirpan's significance, he perceived it to be a weapon. I also feel like my physical appearance made him feel like very uncomfortable. My turban and beard reminded him of a terrorist. I was handcuffed and taken to the Burbank County Jail. I spent several hours in jail before my father bailed me out. All I did was practice my religious belief, but I was made to feel like a criminal. Through the support of various Sikh civil rights organizations and Sikh community, my charges were dropped. However, I was asked to do community service as my probation. I wish that people would understand that my kirpan and my turban don't make me a kind of a criminal. As a practicing Sikh, I want peacekeeping officers to understand that wearing my kirpan is part of my religious practice, like wearing my turban on or keeping my hair. Just because I'm standing outside of subway near an airport doesn't mean I'm a terrorist. By educating law enforcement personnel about Sikhs, the kirpan and its significance, I hope that fellow innocent and law-abiding Sikhs will not be humiliated by those who are supposed to protect their dignity. I served probation because I was practicing my faith as a Sikh, not because I was planning to do any harm. I encourage each community members to work towards passing AB 504 so we can prevent situations such as mine from occurring in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Others in support?
Chairman Lund, may we split our time in so that we can have two comments?
That's fine, sure.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, Vice Chairman, my name is Natasha Slani. I serve as the Vice Chair of the California Commission on Asian American Affairs. I also am a partner with the law firm of Garcia Calderon Ruiz, where I practice education and labor and employment law. I don't have any criminal defense background. My legal practice doesn't include that. Nonetheless, I repeatedly receive calls from Sikh families because I'm an active member of the community when someone close to them has been arrested because they're practicing their religion and wearing a kirpan. I'm unable to provide them any formal legal defense, and I try to help them in navigating our judicial system and providing support as they try to make sense of why a family member is being arrested or is in trouble because they're practicing their religion peacefully. In the years since September 11th, I've helped families negotiate with District Attorney's Office. I've provided legal research to public defenders and to district attorneys whose caseloads are far too heavy to allow them to research cases about the Kirpan or to learn about who Sikhs are. And in the years since September 11th, I've also had the opportunity to work with public safety agencies and local law enforcement agencies, such as the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles Department of the FBI, because those agencies saw that education was the key in helping to stop some of the profiling that was occurring in our community.
Interrupt just briefly. There is absolutely no known opposition. We've got a very long line of people who are going to want to identify themselves. We've got a very long agenda. So less is more. Just name and identification at this point, because there's no opposition.
Okay.
We want to be very respectful.
I will respectfully request your support of AB 504.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Hi.
So very brief statement, if you could, please.
Good morning. My name is Harsimran Kaur. I'm the legal director of the Sikh Coalition. We have worked with numerous national and local law enforcement agencies to ensure that Sikh religious practices are understood and accommodated. So on behalf of the Sikh Coalition, I urge you to approve AB 504. I would just mention Natasha and Diljit very eloquently talked about their experiences assisting the community. We've had a similar, we've done similarly on top of the profiling issue that often accompanies this issue. There's also language access issues. Many members of our community don't speak English fluently and have trouble communicating with law enforcement about what the significance of the Kirpan is. That also compounds people getting arrested. I would also mention that Sikhs are highly represented in the trucking industry, so our community is all over the state of California, particularly in areas where there are a low concentration of Sikhs, which compounds the need for law enforcement to receive this training.
Thank you.
We have also, just to say, we have many succinct educational resources that we'd be happy to provide post.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say this once, and I'll say it once only. Everyone else now, name and identification. Again, committee is completely respectful and supportive of the bill before us. You've made the case very, very well. Name and identification.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office in support.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman and members, Francisco Lobaco on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union in support.
Great to know. Thank you.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice in support.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And now we have a long line of people who have traveled distances to be here, so we thank them for being here. And for those who have spoken, if you could please relinquish your seats so others can get to a microphone and we can be as expeditious as possible. Everyone is welcome. Your name and any identification you'd like to share with the committee.
Onkar Bindra, an educationist in charge of education in the Sacramento Sikh Temple, and I am interacting also with the CDE for educating people about the Sikhs, and I support this bill wholeheartedly on behalf of all the Sikhs of Sacramento.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your being here.
My name is Avtar Singh, came all the way from the Los Angeles. I support these bills, and thank you very much.
Thank you for your long travels to support Mr. Furutani's bill.
My name is Rajbir Singh Gill. I came from Bakersfield, California, sir. I want you to support this bill too.
Thank you, sir.
I am Saman Singh, retired principal. On behalf of the Sikh Center, Orange County, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Navneet Singh. I'm from Stockton, California, and I support this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Good morning. My name is Gurjan Singh Khosa, and I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I am Mukhtar Singh from Stockton. I support this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Rajvinder Kaur from Bakersfield, California. I support this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Sukhminder Kaur from Burbank.
All the way from Burbank.
No English name.
That's all right. We thank you for your presence and your support.
My name is Sukhjit Singh. I'm a freshman from Yuba City, and I support this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
My name is Sukhjinder Singh from, on behalf of the Sikh community in Manteca, I support this bill.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Sukhdeep Kaur from Yuba City, and as a school counselor, I urge you to please pass this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pauljeet Kaur. I'm a senior at Rivervale High School in Yuba City, and I support this bill.
Thank you very much.
Hey, good morning. My name is Hardit Singh, and apart from my English accent, I'm from Sacramento, and I'd really like to urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
My name is Ram Singh, representing Sikh Temple Fremont with 10,000 members. I want your strong support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Liberty Sanchez, California Public Defenders Association, in support.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Good morning. Dr. Ranbir Singh from Yale New Haven Hospital, Connecticut. I support this bill.
Thank you, Doctor. Did you come all the way from Connecticut?
I did.
Wow, we thank you.
Hi, I'm Neha Singh. I'm the Western Region Director of the Sikh Coalition and a resident of San Mateo County. I urge you to please support the bill.
Thank you.
Finis Kahina, California Immigrant Policy Center, here in support.
Thank you.
Manpreet Kaur Kaura. I am the advocacy intern at the Sikh Coalition and a resident of Alameda County, and I support this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. And our last gentleman.
Hello, my name is Bhavit Singh. I am a sophomore at UC Berkeley and an intern at the Sikh Coalition, and I encourage you to support this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Ravneet Kaur, and I'm a community organizer at the Sikh Coalition, and please pass this bill.
And a very successful community organizer. Thank you. Senator Wright.
This is actually, might sound like a dumb question. There were a number of people named Singh. Is there a significance of the name? I mean, this is my own ignorance that I'm just asking because it seemed like there were a lot of people named Singh. I was curious how that came to be.
So Singh is a last name, but sometimes people also use it as a middle name because they will use their caste last name. And it was given to men after our 10th Guru brought about the Khalsa. And so it's supposed to represent a brotherhood amongst Sikh men, and women have the last name Kaur.
So what?
Kaur.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that explanation.
I didn't know. I
do have a motion yet?
Sure, I didn't know. Okay. No, I didn't know.
Okay. Senator Wright, we'll take that as a motion.
Yes, sir.
All right. And Mr. Furtani, is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this bill? If not, we'll ask the author for his closing statement.
I am very proud to be a part of representing this effort, and I respectfully urge your and I vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Furtani, and we thank you also for your advocacy on behalf of this community, but for the civil rights of all Californians.
Thank you.
And we will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit? Aye. Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
Aye.
Wright, aye.
We will place that bill on call, and for those of you who have traveled long distances, we thank you, and to explain that a call means the bill is safe. It's just short of vote, and when committee members return to the room, that vote will be cast. There's no doubt that this bill will lead this committee successfully. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Furtani. And thank you, Assemblyman Cook, for your patience. This is item number 7, AB 307. Welcome, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. AB 307 would make it a misdemeanor for any person who is required to register as a sex offender because of a crime involving a person under the age of 16 to operate an ice cream truck. This is a very, very simple bill, and I do want to make the comment that it's changed from when it came over from the Assembly. We took a major amendment in local government, Senate local government, because it was focused on whether somebody could get a business permit to operate, and they suggested that I take some of the provisions of the Liu bill and change it, which we did, and it passed out of that committee. Current law prohibits sex offender registrants from being employed in a profession in which they would be, quote, working directly and in an unaccompanied setting with minor children on more than an incidental and occasional basis, or have supervision or disciplinary power over minor children. Now, the origin of this bill actually goes back to a city called Troy, New York, where there was an assault on a 9-year-old girl, which outraged the local citizens because the individual was operating an ice cream truck. And New York, surprisingly enough, passed legislation to that effect, and other states and cities have also followed, and you see more and more cases of this. And the bill, the reason I'm running this bill is because of an incident that happened in my particular district, where there was somebody that had a conviction of the crime that I had described, and he was operating an ice cream truck, and the residents found out about it on the internet, and they went to the police, and the police said, "There's nothing we can do about this." And this is the other issue is that whether a standalone code section for ice cream truck vendors, you know, should we actually do this? And I submit to you that there are other occupations or certain venues, because of the nature, we already have laws in place. Offenders prohibited from working community care centers, child daycare centers, residential, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason I was attracted, if you will, to this bill is I obviously have been around a long while. I have kids. I have grandkids. And you know, to me, I always grew up with the impression that, you know, kids do not trust, beware of strangers. But when that ice cream truck comes down there, it becomes a magnet for kids. Oftentimes, they're unsupervised. All they want to do is buy an ice cream. And we kind of debated on this because we got a lot of feedback from our constituents on this. We even had complaints about people selling fireworks out of ice cream trucks to kids. Now, you know, who cares about fireworks? Well, if you're in an area like Riverside County and San Bernardino, it's a big issue because of the fire. And then I talked to Senator Wright, and he was talking to me about some of the issues that have come up with drugs being sold out of ice cream trucks. So why go after this particular profession? And I submit to the committee, it's first of all because I hope that I can champion kids. I run bills for veterans, for kids, for senior citizens, IHSS, Native Americans. And those, I guess, in a nutshell, are my issues. And it's something that I'm obviously very, very passionate about. I just think they're very, very vulnerable. And I know the analysis probably says, well, so what? You know, what's the big deal about this bill? And that might be too simplistic, and I'm not trying to, you know, take issue with it. I'm just trying to remember everything that was in it.
You just suggested that the committee analysis said, so what?
Well, I did
dismissed this very important issue?
No. That the bill itself doesn't go any further, and I didn't mean to be disrespectful of the analysis or the chair or the consultants.
Okay.
And maybe I'm using the trying to boil this down.
Your apology is accepted. Please proceed.
Chair, I'll move the bill. I want to try to help him now.
Okay.
I obviously need a lot of help right now.
Yeah.
Feel free to proceed.
A couple minutes here, you'll move into a note. So.
No, the reason is because there's also been other comments in other committees. There's been and maybe I was carrying some of the comments from certain members of the press on bills that are listed as not important or trivial. And I was just trying to explain to you why I am so passionate about this. And this bill is not going to be a panacea. And part of the rationale behind this bill, obviously, is to respond to my constituents, but it's also to focus on an occupation that is one which is a magnet for children in a whole variety of issues where they could be in danger. And so I bring forth this bill in an effort in one small way, as I said, to make it a misdemeanor, to kind of change the environment so hopefully we can protect these kids. And hopefully in the future, we might examine whether, because of the nature of this and the fact that kids are going to gravitate to this, we might expand this and include other areas where they are in danger of being preyed upon for a whole
list
I
haven't
of areas.
accepted the motion yet because we're going to have some conversation.
Okay. I have my witnesses
but there is a proposed motion. Yes, those in support.
Tim Lynch on behalf of the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors. We're pleased to support the bill. We think coming out of Senate local government, the bill is much improved and is a step in the right direction to improve child safety.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. We believe this bill is necessary. Talking with some of our filing deputies, they don't believe that it is real clear that the existing prohibition would cover this situation. We've had that same issue brought forward by some of the law enforcement agencies in Los Angeles County. So we believe this bill is necessary.
Great. I appreciate the sentiment of that statement. Could you please back it up? Tell me just 2 or 3 situations where someone has been selling ice cream from an ice cream truck who is required by law to register as a sex offender, and even with the law on the books that says that anyone who has to register and would be working directly and in an unaccompanied setting with minor children on more than an incidental and occasional basis, or have supervision or disciplinary power over minor children, that this statute was not sufficient. If you could share those with the committee.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I can't. On the background sheet that came back from my office, I just had 2 very brief statements from my filing deputies that just said they weren't sure under the existing law that they would be able to file.
Well,
so I cannot.
I will keep my mind open, but until someone can bring to this committee that there is a problem here and this is just not a solution in search of a problem, I don't think you're making your case. Others in support?
John Lovell with the California Peace Officers, California Police Chiefs, in support.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association, in support.
Thank you, Mr. Salzetto.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Louis Brown on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association, in support.
Thank you, sir. So anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? I appreciated that you retracted that earlier statement, because as we proceed, and I want to have a conversation here, I will only address you out of full respect for what you're attempting to do. That I do not suggest or imagine there are any other motives here other than keeping the children and our communities of California safe. I hope you will, in exchange, recognize the same intent on my behalf. So if you could please share with me, where do we need to tighten this wording? Because otherwise we're going to see ever more bills that we're going to identify and create individual statutes for all these different occupations. If we need to tighten the language of would be working directly and in an unaccompanied setting with minor children on more than an incidental and occasional basis, or have supervision or disciplinary power over minor children, where is the weakness in that statute currently that you believe or have reason to believe that we're going to see registered sex offenders selling ice cream to our children?
Well, I guess the argument...
Because I don't want to see them selling ice cream to our children, but I don't think that there's any problem with current statute.
Well, I think this is going to be the whole crux of the argument, whether it's covered or whether the language is sufficient, I think. I think it's my belief that there are certain occupations or certain situations where they present a public safety danger to certain elements of society. In this case, obviously, I'm worried about children. The bill, as I said, we modified it. It only started off because we were trying to highlight or underline that premise that we're going for a specific occupation. And I make no bones about it, simply because of the historic trust of children, where all those comments from parents or grandparents, beware of strangers, go right out the window, because after all, it's only an ice cream truck. And that trust and confidence comes down, and because of the difficulties of law enforcement, normally our experiences or what we get back from the field is that they are hesitant to go down this pipe. It's hard to prove. At least that's what.
Really? Now, is that so? I think the Assemblyman just said that law enforcement is afraid to go down, I think were your words, to go down to a operator of an ice cream vending truck, even if there's suspicion that there is a sex offender in that truck. Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know if I said afraid. I think I want to paraphrase and maybe use the word hesitant, unless the...
So is law enforcement hesitant? Why would there be a hesitancy? The law says working directly or in an unaccompanied setting with minor children. Why would law enforcement be hesitant to go investigate someone that they believe to be, because they've seen the picture and the name online, because it's all there for the world to see, someone selling ice cream out of a truck who's a sex offender? Why would law enforcement be hesitant or shy to go enforce the law? Anyone can answer that.
Well, sure. I don't want to make this seem like I'm going against law enforcement, or that that's the purpose of the bill. I'm saying a lot of the problems with this bill is got to do with background checks, investigations, with everything they have to do. Do they have to keep a data book on these particular people? And that's part of the rationale for originally why we were trying to do it with a business license, and to try and somebody that had that would be prohibited from going there. Now, it's a misdemeanor. If somebody wants to do this, in light of all the other things that law enforcement has to do this, my argument is at least it highlights the problem, and we're making a step to create, a safety zone around this particular profession.
But we've got a law in the books, and no one from law enforcement, you're all just staring at me silent with blank looks, because you all know that the current law is sufficient, and if you believe it otherwise, give me some example. I've got the governor on television today staring mean-faced into the camera saying he's going to get rid of waste in government. Tell me why this isn't waste. Why are we even having this conversation? We're busted broke. And I know your intention is good, but I just want to cut through to this. What's the need for this bill?
Well, Mr. Chair, I tried to articulate my position. Obviously, we're going to have differences of opinion, and I tried to state that.
Well, the blank looks I'm getting say volume. So, Mr. Senator Wright. Senator Wright.
Oh, okay. Let me take a try. When I read the bill, my concern was that as you begin defining conditions of the current statute, it doesn't specifically say that it's illegal for a person to sell ice cream to a child, because under the terms of this, whether or not he's in the condition described, selling ice cream from a truck would not necessarily be illegal under the phrase of this. And what my experience would be, is that I'm not as concerned about the sex offender jumping on the child from the truck. What happens is that a relationship becomes established and he accosts the child later on because the familiarity of the guy selling allows him to come back without the truck because he met him on the truck. So when he comes back, that's the guy who sells the ice cream. So the concern that I had wasn't that he was going to jump the child in the truck, or as goes on in Compton, where the guy is actually dealing dope right out of the ice cream truck. Different concern. The concern that I had is that the sex offender, unbeknownst to the child, creates a relationship that gives him access for a later indication. So that's the one. And because the statute doesn't specifically say, I mean, because here the unaccompanied, all the issues there become so unclear that I would like there to be a statute that specifically says that if you are a sex offender, that you would not also be a street truck operator. I mean, that nexus would make that a little clearer. But you're absolutely right. He's not going to jump the child, in the middle of Central Avenue. That's not going to occur. Where it will occur is that the relationship is created. That's how I perceive the bill when I look at it.
So, and just to follow your logic, Senator, then we definitely need legislation that would also carve out similar statutes for roller rink operators, those who sell hamburgers and Cokes at roller rinks, the same with video game parlors and anyone who sells anything at a video game parlor, burger stands. I mean, you can imagine the list goes very, very long, which is why we have an existing statute that says anyone working directly or in an unaccompanied setting with a minor child. That is currently a misdemeanor.
But I would say, Mr. Chair, at a burger joint versus an ice cream truck, it's not like a whole lot of adults are going to run to the ice cream truck. I mean, if you go to the ice cream truck, you're probably going for your kids. There might, I mean, every now and then an adult might go, but a disproportionate number of the people going to the ice cream truck are going to be minors.
The level of this conversation at this point only underscores my belief that this is a solution in search of a profit.
Actually, it isn't. I guess our difference is that I've seen so many crimes committed out of vending trucks, both from the standpoint of sex crimes and dope crimes, more dope crimes than sex crimes, but I've got a whole lot of dope. I mean, we were looking at a bill that I wasn't able to do where I wanted to try to impound the truck. And currently, if you get ready to impound the truck, you've got to inventory all the stuff on the truck down to the last piece of penny candy, because the dope dealers understand that that will preclude law enforcement from apprehending the truck. So there is a whole crime set of things that are done in ice cream trucks. And I look at them as a different category as, say, the McDonald's or the roller rink operator.
Right.
Because in some of those, it's a different drill. I see the ice cream truck, again, because of my experience in my neighborhood, as a kind of criminal enterprise on wheels that doesn't exist in a normal circumstance.
Thank you, Senator. I know Senator Benoit wants to comment, too. I just want to point out that in the situation in New York State, which the Assemblyman has brought to the committee and is in our analysis, right, but because of the effectiveness of our Megan's Law, that the neighborhood very quickly identified, we didn't even need to rely upon law enforcement, that the community, the neighborhood, very quickly identified this man in the ice cream truck to be on their computer as a registered sex offender. And they knew he should not be doing what he did, and the neighborhood came together and was taken care of awfully quickly. So again, we've got a Megan's Law, which I believe seems to be serving its purpose rather well, because it gives everyone all the information, possibly more than that they need, but that's the law. And then we have another law that everyone knows prohibits anyone who has direct, unaccompanied contact with a child. So, Senator Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I believe that both the Chair and Mr. Cook have got the best interests of children in mind. I really should go without saying, but I think I need to say that. I think the debate is an interesting one, and I think Mr. Cook has a point that is worthy of consideration. If you literally read the prohibition, as I read it, it says working directly and in an unaccompanied setting with minor children, etc. I think that there's an argument that could be made that it's difficult to translate that if you take out and in an accompanied setting. That the sentence basically says working directly with minor children. The DA's point, as I understand it, is that that doesn't say he's not working directly with children. There are no co-workers in this environment. He is the sole proprietor or driver of the truck. He's working alone, not with children. He is in contact with children through the course regularly, but he's not literally working with children. That is the semantic issue that I think the DAs are referring to when they say they would potentially have difficulty filing this case. The sentence needs to be clarified, or we could begin the path that this bill, I think, appropriately starts by identifying specific environments where, even though not working directly with children in the sense that he has no co-workers, but engaged in a business where there is a lot of contact with children, we specify that that is inappropriate. I will be supporting the bill on that basis.
Thank you, Senator Benoit. Senator Wright has to take off and may not be back before we adjourn. And there is a particular bill I would like, without objection from the committee, which is up for a vote only. And that would be item 24. Assemblywoman Carter's already presented the bill. There were absent members at the time, and the bill did not get out. So I would like to open the roll so that Senator Wright can cast his vote and be on his way. So we have a motion by Senator Wright, and this is item 24, AB 114 by Assemblywoman Carter. Will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
No.
Benoit, no. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff?
No.
Huff, no. Steinberg? Wright?
Aye.
Wright, aye.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senators. So we can proceed with this matter before us. So just to, again, we've had support, we've had opposition, committee members have spoken. No, Senator Huff, sorry.
Thank you. I apologize. I haven't been able to hear the presentation and the dialogue in here, but as I've been trying to catch up to speed on where this thing is going, I think a significant difference in the ice cream trucks is some of the nuances that Senator Benoit were talking about, but also they are, unlike a hamburger stand, they're moving around to the neighborhoods where these kids are, with or without adult supervision. And I think that's a significant difference between stationary, where you're working with other adults in a situation. You have unaccompanied, perhaps sexual predators, drawing kids in, because that's what ice cream trucks are. They're a magnet, to bring them in. And predators are known, just like a fisherman knows which lure to use in a particular situation. They want something that will get them in context and in proximity to where where they want to go. And I think that it's a reasonable policy that is being proposed here. I don't think it's being punitive or discriminating. It's trying to do what we should be focused on, and that's public safety in a situation, particularly for our most vulnerable members of our state. So I will be supporting the vote, and I apologize I couldn't have all the nuances of the rest of the discussion that we've had.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Assemblyman, we're going to ask if you could make your closing statement, please.
Yes. Obviously, we've had a very healthy debate on this. A lot of this is a matter of semantics. Part of it is I was just handed some of the legal interpretations are occasional and incidental. The primary job of an ice cream truck is selling ice cream, not working with children. And I did get some feedback from my local sheriff's department in Paris, and they said that after it was reported there was nothing they could do with this particular individual because he was no longer on parole or probation, and they didn't think that the other law applied to him. So the reason I brought it forward, once again, it's in my district there seems to be overwhelming support for bills of this nature, that people are concerned about their children. They're concerned about not just in the environment or the situation, but also the one that Senator Wright mentioned. So I probably did not present this, or maybe I paraphrased it, and I hope I didn't offend the committee, but it's one I passionately believe in. I'll continue to have similar legislation. I appreciate the support of the law enforcement community and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And I, again, just want to underscore my complete belief of your sincerity and intent in bringing this forward. I'm going to just make a closing statement, and then we can get on with the vote. We all, as a committee, co-authored a bill as a committee bill to remove the sunset on the Sex Offender Management Board. We created that legislatively with the support of the governor. We now have extended its life because we recognize that this issue of sex offenders is a very delicate one, highly emotionally and politically charged, and we collectively, in a bipartisan, unanimous fashion, agreed that an independent body made up of law enforcement and other stakeholders on the issue of sexual offender management, where they live, where they can work, all of those issues should be managed by this independent board. So we have faith in that board. If you look in the analysis, you'll see that the board has communicated with us, and they have made a number of statements. And this is where I think we might have a disagreement in how we keep our communities and our children safest. I believe that given that the information that we have here from the Sex Offender Management Board, and I won't recount all of the facts and figures, but everyone who has researched and done any kind of studies on this very important issue of how we keep sex offenders from reoffending, and who are these sex offenders? This stranger danger that your bill is addressing, that this stranger who befriends and then makes contact with and then puts our children at risk, 1 out of 10. 9 times out of 10, and no one debates this, the offender in sexual assaults on our children, the offender is known to the family and to the victim. It's the uncle, it's the stepfather, it's the half-brother, it's the brother, it's the father, it's someone in the family unit, 9 times out of 10. And if we're going to spend this much time and energy and resources on this kind of issue, I think we would serve our communities and our families and our constituents better, finding out ways to communicate to them that this stranger danger is the rare occurrence, that offender is in your family right now. What are you doing to address the fact that 9 times out of 10 we know the offender? I think we would be addressing the vast majority of sex offenses if we were to focus on ways we can communicate that to our constituents. Yes, we want to protect that 1 out of 10, and that law is on the books. We've already talked about that, and no one here could even give me a case or two where this law on the books wasn't sufficient. So if we're really interested, and I believe we all are, in keeping our children and communities safe, let's look at the facts. 9 times out of 10, we know the offender. But we don't spend much time talking about that or passing legislation or creating programs that will help parents know better how to protect their children in 90% of the cases. And if you also look at the information provided to us by the Sex Offender Management Board, you'll see that sex offenders are rearrested for another sex crime at significantly lower rates than violent offenders are rearrested for another violent crime, or property offenders are rearrested for another property offense, or that public order offenders are rearrested for another public order offense. In fact, sex offenders have the lowest reoffense rate, second only to murderers. They have the lowest recidivism rates. But we don't talk about that either, because there's a myth out there that sex offenders are uncontrollable and they will always reoffend. And it's dangerous to even say these things. And that's not conjecture. The California Republican Party has actually put into print that Mark Leno is a danger to society and, in their words, pure evil. That's the risk one takes when stating facts on the issue of sex offenders. So I've taken the arrows, I'll take them again. I appreciate what we're trying to do with this bill. I don't think it's necessary. I haven't heard one case that suggests we need to beef up the law that's already on the books. And for that reason, Assemblyman, I won't be able to support your bill today.
Could I just respond very briefly about...
I will forward you that. That will take the vote.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate the debate and allowing us to go forward. I want you to know that whatever the California Republican Party put out, I was not a party to that, nor do I subscribe to that.
I appreciate
that. I think
that.
You've known me long enough that we have an open mind on a lot of different issues. We're not going to always agree, but I think we agree to disagree. And on this issue, obviously, we're never going to convince one another, but I appreciate you letting us hear this bill. I'm afraid I know what the result is going to be, but we're going to continue on this issue because obviously I have a different slant on it, and I will do my best to...
I know you're a very tenacious, committed, and dedicated author, and so should we meet again in the committee that I may be chairing on this issue, if you can show me the problem that this solution is going to fix, you'll probably earn my vote.
And I'll have my helmet and flag check.
Okay, very good. And I thank you for standing up for my character. My other credential is that the Coalition Against Sexual Assault gave me their annual award as Legislator of the Year for standing up for the safety of our children in our community. So with that said, we'll call the roll.
Leno?
We had a motion by Senator Wright and Senator Benoit. No.
Leno, no. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Wright.
Assemblyman, we will place that bill on call. The other members will be returning.
Okay.
Thank you all. Okay. All right. Assemblyman Perez, we're going to take you out of order. I understand you've gotten the blessing of the other authors ahead of you. Thank you for your patience. This is item number 14, AB 811.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senators, and I do want to thank my colleagues for allowing me to present out of order. AB 811 prohibits check cashers from selling any form of identification other than an optional identification card that's intended to access check cashing services. And it further prohibits check cashers from misrepresenting any form of identification that they are permitted to sell. I'd like to begin by thanking Chairman Leno and the committee for working with me on this bill. I'd like to accept as author's amendments the committee's recommendations to modify the penalty for producing a counterfeit California identification card to include a three-tiered penalty schedule that gives courts a full range of discretion to impose an appropriate penalty for different cases. The schedule includes community service and a fine, or 1 year imprisonment in county jail and a maximum fine of $1,000 or probation, with conditions that include community service and a fine. Amendments further add a provision that allows prosecution under any other statute if the defendant manufactures a counterfeit state ID. Current law permits check cashers from selling identification cards to customers for the purposes of accessing check cashing services. These identification cards are intended to offer better services to repeat customers by expediting and simplifying their transactions. There are, however, cases of abuse where check cashers require customers to purchase these IDs. There are also cases where check cashers coerce customers into purchasing IDs that are advertised as legal California identification cards and legal driver's licenses. Current law falls short of preventing some check cashers from preying on vulnerable populations such as recent immigrants and limited English proficient communities and coercing them into purchasing these unnecessary or illegal IDs. AB 811 protects customers from buying unnecessary or illegal IDs by clarifying that a check casher can only sell optional identification cards intended for accessing their services. It further gives the courts the range of options for punishing the individuals who manufacture and sell these counterfeit identifications. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. With me is Vanessa Kahina from the California Immigrant Policy Institute to testify in support of this bill.
Great. And before we have your testimony, I just want to thank you, Assemblyman, as author, working with the committee. I think the amendment that you're taking as author's amendments relative to the range of penalties gives the court greater discretion, which is a theme that runs through this committee's work.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. In support.
Vanessa Hina with the California Immigrant Policy Center. We support this bill. We think it's a vital consumer protection for a population that doesn't have a whole lot of protections. In Los Angeles alone, there are over 300,000 unbanked households, and in fact, over 75% of low-income Latinos don't use traditional banking services. We know that this population, who tends to also be limited English proficient, tends to be coerced in these kinds of situations into getting identification that isn't necessarily valid in the state of California through no fault of their own. For those reasons, we thank the author for presenting this bill and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Just to share with you a real success story that we've had in San Francisco, similar kind of problem. The city and county treasurer, Jose Cisneros, has worked with private banking institutions in San Francisco, and we have successfully, through a Bank on San Francisco program, brought in 12,000 unbanked San Franciscans who are now banking in San Francisco, and so will not be as likely prey for the folks that you're trying to go after with this bill.
I appreciate that, and that's half of the challenge. The other half is, quite frankly, and this happened as I was walking outside of my district office 1 block down for lunch. I was stopped 3 times offering me a opportunity to drive legally. And, you know, people are basically selling these fake licenses as a way for folks to circumvent California law that provides no actual pathway to legal driving.
Funny you don't look Jewish.
You didn't buy that. No, I didn't.
Do we have anyone here to speak in opposition? We have a motion from the committee. We have a motion by Senator Huff. If you'd like to make a closing statement.
Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Very good. Thank you. We'll call the roll. As amended.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Wright.
We will put the bill on call. When our members return, we'll take it up. Thank you, Assemblyman. All right. Assemblyman Gilmore. Yes, you've been very patient. Thank you. Item number 11, AB 748.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. I hesitate in making a statement that this is a very simple bill, having heard some of the dialogue in earlier bill, but it is very simple indeed. AB 748 simply seeks to clarify a deficiency in law with the addition of MDMA, most properly known as ecstasy, into the state schedule of controlled substances. Under current law, controlled substances are classified into 5 schedule phases with the greatest penalties and restrictions placed on Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. While the federal government classifies ecstasy as a Schedule 1 drug, California does not have it scheduled at all. Currently, ecstasy is prosecuted in California courts as an analog of methamphetamine, which by definition is a structural derivative of a parent compound. As a consequence, prosecutors spend valuable time and precious resources arguing and calling witnesses to testify that the controlled substance in question is not just ecstasy, but indeed an analog to meth. In California, methamphetamines are classified as Schedule II drugs, so it stands to reason to classify its structural and elemental relative in the same category. This technical fix simply removes an additional layer of complexity to the prosecution of ecstasy offenses. As proposed, AB 748 will not, and I repeat, will not add additional penalties or jail time. Additionally, it will not increase the number of guilty verdicts. It simply removes unnecessary court time. This bill had out of the Assembly with strong bipartisan support. I respectfully request your aye vote. And with me today I have several gentlemen from the law enforcement community and the judicial committee as well in support of the bill.
Very good. In support.
Ken Pogue for the California Attorney General's Office, sponsor of this bill. This bill will remove the barrier for prosecutors for having to bring expert witness testimony that is both expensive and somewhat confusing for juries. That is the reason that we sponsored this bill, and we think that it will save California a lot of money while not changing the penalties for possession of MDMA.
Thank you, sir. Others in support?
Mr. Chair and members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association in support.
Okay, thank you.
John Lovell with the California Narcotic Officers Association, police chiefs and peace officers. This is essentially a code maintenance bill. We don't see any public policy Rubicons being crossed here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Phillips on behalf of the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, echoing the comments of the Attorney General's office.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else in support? In opposition?
Good afternoon, committee. Glenn Backus for Drug Policy Alliance Network. The scheduling laws we are in opposition. The scheduling law is clear. The schedule is based on danger and for potential for abuse. There's no part of the scheduling statute that goes to making it easier for district attorneys to make their case or to streamline prosecutions. It is about danger and potential for abuse. Danger of MDMA is not established. Its overdose potential is not similar to cocaine. It's not similar to aspirin, Robitussin, or alcohol. MDMA has been widely available on the black market since the early 80s. And unlike methamphetamine, which is Schedule II, its use is not associated with violence or aggression, unlike methamphetamine or alcohol. Its potential for abuse is rare, though it has been available since the early 80s. Daily or compulsive use is extremely rare. Simplifying prosecutions may have the effect of increasing the number of persons in jails or prisons. Prosecuting MDMA, like methamphetamine, means that simple possession offenders may be prosecuted for a felony, which should have contribute to overcrowding in jails, prisons, and has 3 strikes implications. Under California law, you'd be able to incarcerate a person for possession of methamphetamine for up to 25 years to life if they have a prior 2 burglaries or other crimes on the list. MDMA is not methamphetamine. The behaviors of those who use it are not similar. Its abuse potential is not similar. The dangers are not similar. It is not appropriate to Schedule II. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Backus. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Thank you, Mr. Gilmore, for bringing the bill forward. I would be pleased to support placing MDMA in Schedule II, but with an amendment that would clarify that possession is a misdemeanor. I would agree with the oppositional voice that our job is not to make anything easier for prosecuting attorneys, that in fact existing law does allow the prosecution for MDMA possession for sale, and sale, because MDMA is an analog of methamphetamine. So there's always that option. But I believe that without that amendment and without that requirement that is in existing law to prosecute for beyond misdemeanor, what the effect of the bill will be, intentional or otherwise, is that a lot of users, maybe occasional, would be swept up under this new statute. And so that's not my interest. I have no problem going after those who are making profits off of this drug, but the occasional user I would not want to see prosecuted in a more severe way than they could be if we were to make this a Schedule II drug, which I support, if its possession is a misdemeanor. So with that amendment, I could support you today.
And they understand that you would leave the analogs.
Mr. Chair. And we leave the analog statute in effect. I'm not touching that.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate your comments. And in talking with the sponsor of the bill, as I said, this is the sponsor and myself. I would not be willing to take the amendments on it. I totally respect your opinion on it. Sure. I presented the bill in that we are already prosecuting for ecstasy. My concern with is, and we've talked about it throughout this building on a myriad of issues, in that we are using DOJ experts to come in, analysis to come in, additional time in preparing the case, and this removes that particular layer in the prosecution of the cases. So in my opinion, it's a very, very simple fix to a problem that we've been addressing for a number of years.
Okay, thank you. And again, the reason I can't support it without the amendment, and with all due respect to your sponsor, that it's just going to make it easier for someone to find him or herself in state prison for possession of MDMA as a felony and with the potentiality of triggering 3 strikes. And I think that's more onerous than I would like to see in statute. So with that said, we have a motion by Senator Benoit and a comment.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear from either Assemblyman Gilmore or other witnesses who might have more background on it. Is there any precedent for what the chair is suggesting, that we should have a drug in a Schedule II classification that would be a misdemeanor?
Mr. Chairman, members, last year there was a bill by Mr. Anderson, or
yes, it's Anderson.
Dealing with a drug called COT that set up this type of situation.
Right.
So there would be precedent on that. All I can say is for Los Angeles County, we don't charge the possession, simple possession, as a felony, as an office policy. But like I said, there was the bill last year. I don't remember the bill number, though.
Right. It was AB 1141. It's on page 5 of the analysis. And just to answer Senator Benoit's question more directly, I think it makes my case even a little more strongly, because under AB 1141 by Assemblyman Anderson, which placed COT, K-H-A-T, in Schedule II as a misdemeanor, but unlike what I'm suggesting for your bill, Mr. Gilmore, it is not relative to the statute regarding analog of methamphetamine. So I would agree to that.
And given the conversation that we've had, I would support the bill as drafted by Assemblyman Gilmore without question. But recognizing that sometimes getting a half a loaf is better than none at all, I might suggest you take a few minutes and we put the bill over for a few minutes and have a discussion about whether or not this is not a step in the direction you'd like to take. I would just offer that opportunity if you're interested in having that discussion before we close the bill out.
Mr. Felizardo, could you share with us how this works in your world? And I know you're not the sponsor, but how does this suggested amendment fall on your ear?
In Los Angeles County, that's your amendment is, in effect, our office policy already. Simple possession is not prosecuted as or charged as a felony. The reality is that there's drug court programs, DEJ, Prop 36. There's a variety of mechanisms that basically prohibit or make it very difficult to ever get to a felony type prosecution for simple possession. In our office, we have certain criteria, number of tablets of ecstasy possessed. In the absence of the large number of tablets, if there's some other indication of sales, large amounts of cash, weapons, under those type of situations,
you
we
use
will
the analog
prosecute.
statute.
Correct.
Right.
For our office is in strong support of this bill because, as the Attorney General's office stated, because it's currently not listed on a schedule, we have to prosecute this as an analog of methamphetamine. It is a very scientific presentation that you have to make to a jury, and sometimes we've seen instances where the jury is basically completely confused by the science through no fault of their own. It's just not their background. I have to say as myself, I am not a science background. I generally put the experts on the stand and let them speak. I don't even understand all of it. So,
thank you. Very good. So we will allow for some conferring.
A lot of conferring going on, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If you want to take a few more moments and not feel rushed, we'll move on to the next bill, and we can always come back at the end of the meeting.
I'll go with the sponsor on the bill, Mr. Leno, in that we're not interested in taking the amendments. I certainly appreciate your comments. I appreciate Senator Benoit's comments. And just close in saying that, the federal government has ecstasy as a Schedule I. I would certainly respect your opinion.
They also have
and-
marijuana as a Schedule 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Senator Leno,
So-
I would like to, Ken Pogue, for the Attorney
Yes.
General's Office, I would
Yes.
like to thank your staff who spent a lot of time on this and did make a lot of contacts with us in an attempt to resolve something. We are not in a position to accept amendments, but we do appreciate all the work that
Very
was done
good.
on this.
Thank you. So we have a motion, and we'll take that as your closing statement. Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. We'll call the roll.
Leno?
No.
Leno, no. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Right.
We will place that bill on call. Thank you all. Mr. Fuentes, thank you for joining us today. We have your AB 806, item 13.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. This bill is a simple measure that will not cost the state any money, but will contribute valuable due process protections to our criminal justice system. Current law requires that prior to accepting a guilty or no contest plea, a judge must advise a criminal defendant of the potential immigration consequences of that plea. Specifically, the judge must advise that the conviction for the offense to which the defendant is pleading may have the consequence of deportation, exclusion from admission, or denial of naturalization. The court must allow the defendant additional time to consider the appropriateness of the plea in light of this advisement. This requirement was put into statute and upheld by the courts because of the substantial constitutional rights that are waived in pleading guilty or no contest and the serious, life-changing, but often unknown consequences to the one entering the plea.
Mr. Fuentes, excuse me, I'm just going to ask if those in the audience could take their conversations outside the room, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 1977, when this requirement was adopted by this legislature, it was recognized that such an advisement is necessary for a plea to be knowing and voluntary. Since the adoption of the deportation advisement, there has been a trend of increased illegal reentry prosecutions at the federal level. In fact, more than a third of the federal prosecutions in Los Angeles and surrounding counties are illegal reentry prosecutions. People who have been in the United States since before they could walk or talk are being deported to their country of birth, often a country with which they do not and cannot identify. Whether we like it or not, a large number of people in this situation return to the United States to be with their children, wives, husbands, mothers, fathers, partners, and friends. When they do come back, they are subject to federal prosecution for illegal reentry after a conviction and are exposed to potentially extremely severe federal sentences, often 3 or 4 times the length of the state court sentence that got them deported in the first place. People who find themselves in this situation typically realize that returning to the United States without permission is wrong, but they have no idea of how wrong or how serious that crime is. This bill recognizes the seriousness of the crime of illegal reentry after conviction and recognizes that it is something that should be considered when a person is deciding how to proceed in a criminal case in state court. I don't want to minimize the act of returning to the United States after deportation. To the contrary, I recognize how serious an offense this is. That is why defendants should be aware of the possibility of illegal reentry prosecution before a judge accepts a guilty or no contest plea as knowingly and voluntarily entered. This bill would merely add 1 sentence to the advisement that is already given in criminal pleas. It would add mere seconds to the plea of colloquy, but it would provide extremely valuable information to that defendant. This bill is supported by the California Public Defenders Association, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, the ACLU, and the Office of the Public Defender's Office, a very interesting mix, if you can imagine, Mr. Chair, of support. And with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I do have witnesses in support.
So I just want to clarify, you had said the Los Angeles District Attorneys Association is in support.
Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, the ACLU, Office of the Federal Public Defender's Office, and the California Public Defenders.
Great, and now we have their representative.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. The advisement that this bill would add to current law, to California law, is already given in the federal immigration court. However, our office is in support with the hope that because of the problem of illegal reentry in California, especially in Los Angeles County by individuals, if the individual is given the notice, we're hoping that the individual takes it seriously and then does not choose to re-enter illegally.
The philosophy here being more information is better than less.
Correct.
Good. Okay, anyone else in support? In opposition to Assemblyman Fuentes, AB 806?
Mr. Chair and members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association. Unfortunately, we are opposed to the bill. First, I would point out that I'm not sure that it's the duty of the court in this situation to inform somebody who's potentially going to plea that he or she could be charged with this crime for returning. There are several other acts that a person similarly situated could subject themselves to that carry punishment that the court does not make such an advisement of. Additionally, the severity of the remedy for the failure to give the advisement is that the plea can be vacated and the plea removed. And so I think that's the basis of the concern, that problem exists as the advisement under PC 1016.5 currently exists, and expanding that would expand our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Any comments, questions from my committee? If you'd like to make a brief closing statement.
It will be brief, Mr. Chair. In a guilty no contest plea, it is a judge's duty to ensure that the plea is made knowingly and voluntarily. Our aim here is to make sure that those folks who are potentially impacted by illegal reentry have the most information and, more importantly, the consequences and the severity of their reentry in mind as they enter a knowingly and voluntary plea. So with that, I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. I think you've made a strong argument for your bill. You have my wholehearted support. I will move the bill, and we'll call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit? Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
We'll place the bill on call and take it up before we adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Yeah. Assemblywoman Conway, welcome to our committee. Item number 19, AB 1074. Sorry you'll be talking just to me, but we'll make this very intimate. You can stand right at the podium if you like and let your supporters take the table seat at the table.
I'm flustered, Senator.
Hardly.
I guess I was going to be a witness in support of my own. And thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, actually, to be here and talk to you about this a little bit, Senator and committee members, about AB 1074. And really all I want to talk about is just the importance and the intent behind the bill. It's really to address a loophole in current law regarding contractors' licenses. As you know, the Contractor State License Board issues a license to contractors who meet the necessary safety and experience requirements in a particular field. Currently, a contractor can be punished for fraudulently doing business under another's existing license number. However, the law is not clear enough to protect consumers from individuals who make up a contractor state license number. If I use yours, not mine, I'm in trouble. If I just make one up, I'm not, which is why it seems so inherently wrong. By correcting some simple language in the Business and Professions Code, both actions would clearly be violations. This is to protect both consumers and the licensed contractors, just as the Business and Professions Code originally intended. The penalty for fraudulently using a contractor state license number is a fine not to exceed $10,000 and/or imprisonment in state prison or in county jail for no more than 1 year. The option provided in the code allows for consideration of our current overcrowded system. AB 1074 is not a bill to create or extend any law. It is simply intended to clarify what we think is already in statute to protect the consumers, especially in these times, and our seniors that are often vulnerable to folks that knock on the door because they're so trusting, and also our law-abiding contractors. I do have some witnesses with me, Senator, if you would allow. Okay.
That's what they're here for.
All right.
Welcome to our committee.
Thank you, Senator. Mike Brown, representing sponsor of the bill, Contractor State License Board. We would respectfully request your aye vote. I'm going to state simply the obvious, that a fraud that's committed with a number that is not a specific valid license number is just as real as a fraud that's committed by somebody using a license number that is real. District attorneys are unable to prosecute these cases using this specific section of law as it is right now, simply because a specific valid license number was not used. And so we respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you for the clear explanation. Mr. Brown, in support.
Mr. Chairman, Skip Dome on behalf of the American Subcontractors Association of California. It's really a clarification. It's one that's desperately needed these days especially. And I represent 400 subcontracting companies. They're calling me saying, what are we going to do about this? And so I can't give them a remedy. This would be the remedy. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Scott Day, United Contractors Association. We have contractors across the state of California who are dealing with the same type of situation where we are forced to advertise against people that are using made-up or stolen license numbers or business license numbers. And for us, this clarification makes a lot of sense. It's something that we actually quite a bit support, and we'd hope that you feel the same way, not only for us, but for the consumers who might avoid being victims of this kind of fraud.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members at large. Jeffrey Leacox on behalf of the California Landscape Contractors Association. We're in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in support of Assemblywoman Conway's bill? Anyone in opposition? So just to share with our audience that you and I have met on this, and I have absolutely no disagreement with the policy of it. I'm caught in a situation where I have to be consistent with all the authors that come before this committee relative to our ROCA policy. That's an acronym for Receivership Overcrowding Aggravation. As you well know, we're at about 200% capacity in our state prison, and any additional aggravation of that overcrowding this committee has held. And I've had to say no to Democratic colleagues as well as Republican colleagues, and it is painful that I can't support your bill today because of our ROCA policy. But as I also told you, that should the bill not have sufficient votes to leave committee today, that without objection of the committee, I'd be very happy to offer you reconsideration of the bill, which means that we could potentially take it up in January, and that I'm very hopeful that this legislature, before we resolve our budget crisis or through this budget resolution process, will be instituting some significant parole, probation, sentencing reforms. And as a result, we can claim some victory in our overcrowding problem. And I would like to suggest, hardly to make a blanket statement, that our ROCA policy maybe has put some pressure on the legislature to deal with the fact that we are in the position of having a federal court release tens of thousands of prisoners because we, the legislature, have not done what's necessary to deal with a very, very serious problem. And proof, I think, not in your case, but other legislators coming before this committee and wanting to create new felonies and extend prison sentences as if we have no problem whatsoever. So we've had to just close the gate altogether and say, until we deal with this overcrowding problem, we're going to keep this ROCA policy in place. So again, a very sincere communication to you and your sponsors and supporters that there is no policy problem in this. It will, as it was originally promoted, not just clarify, but actually expand the universe of those who could be charged for a felony. So for that reason, and I know it may sound like it's a splitting of hairs, but that's in fact what law is, the splitting of hairs. I won't be able to support the bill today strictly on the ROCA concern, not on the policy, and that should the votes not be there, that hopefully we can take this up and successfully move it in January. I'm sorry, it would be in the spring. It would be in the spring.
Well, I appreciate that, Senator, and you certainly are more experienced at this than I. And I'll admit to you, and perhaps some of my witnesses do, I have no idea how many people are actually jailed on these type of offenses, if they're merely fined the $10,000 if they're caught, or if they're actually put into jail. I don't know those numbers. Maybe some of these gentlemen do. So I don't know that we would be, how much we would be adding to the prison population in doing that. So, but as I say, I certainly appreciate your knowledge and expertise in the field.
That's right.
And it really just seemed like such a, it's common knowledge out there, so they know better than to, well, don't use somebody else's number that's advertised in an ad in the paper, because then I can be in trouble. If I just make something up, I can get away with this. Be a predator, if you will, on seniors and those that are vulnerable who need help, and make the industry look bad without cause. So I do appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. You make a very strong argument. It's very compelling. And again, my problem and my predicament is that if we were to make this exception to ROCA, then I would have a couple dozen legislators at my door saying, do you have a policy or don't you? So
would it be okay if the gentleman have a response, Senator?
Mr. Brown, if you want to take a moment.
I was just going to inquire, Senator, is there any reason why we couldn't just make this a 2-year bill?
That's what we're essentially doing.
That's essentially what we're doing.
Essentially what you're going to do with reconsideration.
We won't even need, in fact, I misspoke. We're not going to have a motion today because of the ROCA policy, so no vote will be taken. It's a 2-year bill, and it'll be safe in the committee, and hopefully we can take it up successfully in the spring.
We appreciate that.
Thank you for letting me clarify that.
Yes, thank you. We've got a good policy bill here, and we appreciate it.
Yes, you do. All right.
Thank you so much for your time and for your help, Senator. I appreciate it.
I'll let him do it.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Benoit.
On AB 748, item 11, could we ask for reconsideration on that?
Should there not be sufficient votes, if there's no objection from the committee, without a doubt?
I just want to make sure I didn't
of course.
forget that. Thanks.
All right. So, Assemblyman Solorio, I understand that we have been successful in reaching some common ground.
Yes, we have. I don't know if you want to discuss the updated language points or.
Since either one or both of us may not have been at the center point of those negotiations, I'm going to ask our chief consultant, Ms. Anderson, to walk us through the 6 points that will be represented as amendments in the bill today.
Sounds good.
Reading my own handwriting here. As I understand what the author intends to do, to take amendments to apply its provisions to Phase 2 only.
Correct.
And to provide that for counties with a population over 500,000, the requirement to receive funding priority would be 500 reentry beds.
Correct.
And for a county population under 500,000, it would be bed for bed in terms of reentry
under 500,000.
beds. Under 500,000.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
The program requirements that the author discussed earlier that were raised in the committee amendments would be added to the bill. And the word existing beds with reference to the new beds that could be, or the beds that could be used for reentry purposes that are otherwise used for jail inmates, would be removed so that there would be broader...
We'll strike out existing, so it could be existing or newly constructed beds.
Exactly. And an urgency would be added to the bill, presuming that urgency is approved by Rules Committee, and that the author will continue to work with the committee, CDCR, CSSA, and others as the bill moves to Appropriations Committee.
I agreed to all those. I was in many of those conversations.
Wonderful.
So.
Great. Well, I'm glad we found some common ground. So with those proposed amendments, we have a motion by Senator Benoit as amended.
Also, Senator Huff would like to be added as a co-author. So if we
Senator Huff is co-author.
Please add that as well.
All right. And Senator Benoit also. So you're picking up co-authors left and right. Thank you for all your hard work on this.
No, thank you. Appreciate it, Chair and members.
Yes.
I ask for your support.
All right. So we have a motion, and we will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye, as amended.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
We are clearly missing members. As soon as they're here, we will take up the call.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Brownlee, welcome to our committee. Item 17, AB 988, Human Trafficking and Training Content.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
and Senator. Due to the underground nature of human trafficking, law enforcement has a hard time finding traffickers and bringing them to justice. In response to that difficulty, Congress created the U visas, which are designed to provide immigration status to non-citizens that are assisting or are willing to assist authorities in the investigation of crimes. There was a big article in the LA Times just a few days ago on the U visas. AB 988 will require the Commission on Peace Officers Standards and Trainings to create and make available a training module on U visas. AB 988 is an essential measure that will train law enforcement on how to assist and aid human trafficking victims on how to obtain this U visa. AB 988 will save lives and I believe bolster law enforcement's ability to investigate and prosecute human trafficking crimes. I have witnesses here in attendance, Shannon Smith-Crawley from CAST and Dan Filizzato from the LA County District Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Thank you.
Hi, Shannon Smith-Crowley, representing the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. Post already is trained on T visas, but T visas are limited to persons that are affected by severe forms of human trafficking, and this is just one other tool that can be used for survivors and is very important, and we appreciate Assemblymember Brownlee introducing this bill.
Thank
Ask
you,
for your support.
Ms. Smith-Crowley.
John Lovell with the California Police Chiefs, California Peace Officers, and California Narcotic Officers, which we'll go into in a second. This is an extremely important bill and has actually become more critical because what we have found in the last year is a disturbing trend where organized drug cartels are getting as an additional market niche, if you will, human trafficking, because they're distributing product, they're also moving people. And we are going to need all the help we can get, particularly since in the budget that is before the legislature this year, all 51 of the B&E drug task forces, which have been engaged in human trafficking investigations, have been wiped out. And I would hope, as a commercial here, that in the negotiations with the budget, that mistake is rectified, because we have a significant, organized criminal problem with human trafficking.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office in support. We've worked with the author on this. The advantage of the U visa as opposed to the T visa is the U visa allows not only the specific victim, but their immediate family who are present in the country to remain, so long as the individual is cooperating with law enforcement and all the other requirements of existing law. Unfortunately, the T visa is a little bit older, and so law enforcement investigators are more familiar with it and tend to try and strictly use the T visa. We're trying to encourage law enforcement where appropriate to use the U visa. In our experience, it has resulted in a greater amount of cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Filizzato. Anyone else in support of Ms. Brownlee's bill?
Yeah, I'm Naseem Zamani from the California Commission on the Status of Women, and we support the bill as well.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Any oppositional voices? I don't know that there are. Any comments, questions, motions from the committee? We have a motion by Ms. Hancock.
Sure.
Thank you. If you'd like to make a closing statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the U visas have been underutilized. I think training will help, and I think it will help to bolster law enforcement and help save human life. And I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Great. Well, we're all very appreciative of your following on the good work of Senator Kuehl and SB 180. And we have a motion, so we'll call the roll.
Thank you.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit? Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Steinberg? Wright.
You have 3 votes. You need 4. I suspect you'll have them without much trouble. We'll take this bill up when we lift the call at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you for your witnesses today. Our next author is Assemblyman Portantino, item 18, AB 1017, to be followed by Assemblywoman Ma, who has item number 20. So, committee members, item 18, AB 1017. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to point out that Ms. Brownlee is also a joint author of this bill.
Yes, she is.
She is. So, Chair and members, I'm presenting AB 1017, a bill that we've introduced to ensure that California does everything it can to find and convict rapists. Last year, when it was discovered that the City and County of Los Angeles had large backlogs of unopened rape kits in their evidence lockers, public concern forced the City and County to make a commitment to test all of these rape kits. Of these unopened kits, 217 were over the statute of limitations. An additional 403 unopened rape kits were taken as a result of stranger rapes. If tested, the resultant evidence could have identified and convicted the perpetrators. It is naive to believe that Los Angeles area is the only community in the state that is not testing its rape kits.
Assemblyman, excuse me for
Yes,
interrupting. I've just been informed that the Judiciary Committee is going to be here at 1 o'clock, not 1:30, so we're on a very short time frame here. I don't believe there's any opposition. If you could focus just on the amendments you're going to be taking as office amendments.
For cost reasons, we are deleting Subdivision B of Section 1. This will delete a requirement that additional criminal statistics be reported to the Department of Justice. We're requiring that only local law enforcement agencies be required to report on rape kits, and the state that the reports received by DOJ are subject to inspection under the California Public Records Act. I believe that removes any concerns DOJ has, and I have co-authors. We think this is a good bill, and it's going to help process these kits quicker.
I think you'll find support among committee members. Thank you for walking us through the amendments. Very briefly, just identification in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Phillips on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, support.
Thank you.
California Commission on the Status of Women, in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Any opposition? We do have a motion as amended by Senator Hancock. If there are no other questions, comments from the committee, a brief close.
I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblyman. We'll call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
You have 3 votes. You need 4. We'll lift that call at the end of this meeting, which will be in just a few minutes. Thank you. Assemblywoman Ma, welcome to our committee. We have your AB 1209, our item number 20.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. I am pleased to present AB 1209, a bill sponsored by the Attorney General's Office to provide clarification on the use of mobile fingerprinting devices. Under current law, when a person is arrested for an infraction or a misdemeanor, law enforcement is required to verify a person's ID for booking purposes. Instead of being transported to a facility to be booked, an arrestee with a valid driver's license or other evidence agrees to appear in a court at a later date, is cited, and then released. When an arrestee does not have proper driver's license, there is no quick and accurate way of verifying their identification. Rather, an officer must transport the individual to a police station where fingerprints are submitted on a live scan machine in order to ensure their identity. While this data is speedy and precise, the process still requires the officer to be pulled away from patrolling the streets. In a time when more local budgets are being cut, it's important that we try to keep law enforcement on the street instead of behind desks. AB 1209 will provide law enforcement a time-saving tool to obtain information in the field and also save an arrestee time by eliminating the need to schedule and transport to an arresting agency just to be booked. AB 1209 does not change current law that prohibits the release of fingerprint information to non-authorized sources, nor change data-keeping provisions. This bill simply provides law enforcement the option to use accurate technology to save time and fight crime. There is no opposition to the bill, and the bill has received only aye votes. With me today is Ken Pogue from the Attorney General's Office.
Great. So greater efficiency in the operation of government. Great. We have a motion. And again, since we are a little short on time and there is no opposition to the bill, if you could give us your name and identification, please.
Mr. Chair, members, Ken Pogue from the Attorney General's Office. I just did want to give you one bit of factual support since you were asking for it earlier.
Okay.
Sac County is talking about cutting its officers that would be taking folks down to the station to be booked. This would allow officers in the field to do that. It would save money, and we appreciate your aye vote.
Thank you. I heard on the radio today upwards of 200 sheriffs. Heartbreaking.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Phillips on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office in support.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Lieutenant Wayne Billowit on behalf of Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in support.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Nick Warner, California State Sheriff's Association in support.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Mr. Chair and members, Corey Salzilla on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association in support with my good friend, criminal justice attorneys.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice in support.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. We're all joining hands. It's a beautiful moment. Anyone in opposition to this bill? We do have a motion. If you'd like a brief close.
Respectfully ask your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit? Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock? Hancock, aye. Huff? Steinberg? Wright?
We will place that bill on call and take it up in just a few moments as we lift those calls and as we ask our last author of the day, Assemblyman Blumenfield, to come forward. I'm going to ask for a motion for our consent calendar, items 10 and 21. So moved by Senator Benoit. We will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit? Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Steinberg? Wright?
The consent calendar is out, though we'll keep the roll open, so we'll keep that on call. And Assemblyman Blumenfield is here to present item 22, AB 1390. Welcome, Assemblyman.
Thank you very much. I know you're about to shut down, so I will be as brief as possible. I've worked with the chair and taken amendments that I hope make this fairly easy to move forward. What I'm dealing with today is there's a particular problem in districts where you have district police as well as municipal police. What I've been told is that the municipal police are often not being told when there is a gun or explosive brought to school. This bill is merely a clarification of existing law to say that when there is a gun that is in school, you need to make sure that it is reported to the municipal police as well as the district police. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Okay, very good. And just to put a fine point, and thank you for working with our office to clarify, and this is sort of a little conundrum of law here, our consultant Steve Meinrath is going to put that fine point on the amendment that's proposed as an author's amendment.
So there will be an author's amendment, and the amendment will provide that the principal or his or her designee will must report any acts involving bringing a firearm or explosives on a school campus by a pupil or a non-pupil. And the amendment will specify that this report must be to both the local police or sheriff having jurisdiction over the school, as well as to the campus police or campus security agency, if there is one. And then the amendment will delete the provisions of the bill that would have required campus security to also report these acts to local police or sheriff.
And I will work with you on I'd like to work closely with you on the technical drafting of that. And as we've talked about, I mean, I want to make sure it doesn't trigger an appropriation because, as you say, the existing law says public authorities, and exactly what you say is how we'll make it work.
Well, we're going to finalize
Was that the actual text of the?
We have the text, and I can give you assurance that this is not going to trigger the appropriation because this is not meant to be a poison pill in any way whatsoever.
Great.
Okay. All right. Very good. Do we have witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair and members, Sandra Lujan-Struzek with the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, sponsors of this bill. Principals often mistake school police as the appropriate law enforcement authority. We believe that these clarifying amendments will be helpful. We ask you to also consider that the real problem is that the principals also do not report all crimes, and they want to handle it administratively. We believe that prompt reporting of these two serious crimes means that schools will be safer for students, staff, and the surrounding communities. The bill is supported by the LA School Police Department, the City of LA, Crime Victims United, and we ask for your aye vote on this important school safety bill.
Thank you very much. And just to clarify, thank you for supporting the amendment that is specifically for firearms and explosives.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Corey Salzilla on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association. Without having seen the amendments, it sounds like it's still going in the direction which we're supportive of, is getting more information to the appropriate officials, so we're in support of the bill.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else in support? Mr. Blumenfield's bill as amended. Senator Benoit.
I'd like to move the bill with the following clarification, if I could.
1 second. If we could please, I know we're a little late getting out of here, and we will be in just a moment. If you could please keep your conversations outside the room.
As I understand it, the current law requires the notification of law enforcement when there's these types of violations. It's not clear in the current law that that means the police or sheriff. This amendment simply makes it now clear that they are required to notify the police or the sheriff, whichever would have jurisdiction. And a second requirement is that if there is a local security force on the campus, that the principal should also notify them.
That is correct.
And with that amendment, I'm supportive of the bill.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. We've asked for opposition. I don't see any. We have a motion, a brief closing statement.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblyman, and thank you for working with us again. We will call the roll as amended.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Right.
We'll place that bill on call for just a moment, and we'll run through all of the bills, starting from the top. So, committee members, if we could focus so we can go through this just once and relinquish this room to the Judiciary Committee. We're going to start with item 1, AB 17 by Assemblyman Swanson. We have a motion by Senator Hancock, and we will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Right.
That bill is out 5-0. Item number 2, AB 99 by Assemblyman DeLeon. We need a motion by Senator Hancock, and call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
No.
Benoit, no. Cedillo? Cedillo, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
No.
Huff, no. Steinberg? Right.
We will place that bill on call. Item 12, AB 789 by Assemblyman DeLeon.
Need a motion on that.
Yes. This is amended, specifying probable cause, and a motion by Senator Hancock. We will call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg, right.
That bill is out 5-0.
This last one, you need a motion on.
Item 16, AB 955 by Assemblyman DeLeon. POBAR process. We have a motion by Senator Benoit. We will call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Benoit?
Aye.
Benoit, aye. Cedillo? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg, right. Cedillo, aye.
That bill is out 5-0. Item 3, AB 241 by Assemblyman Nava. The bill, as amended, will lift the call.
Hancock?
Aye.
Chair voted aye. Hancock, aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
No.
Huff, no. Steinberg?
That bill is on call. Item number 4, AB 242 by Assemblyman Nava. Chair voted aye. We will lift the call.
Cedillo? This is item number 24. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg?
That bill is out 5-0. Item number 5, AB 243 by Assemblyman Nava. As amended, chair voted aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff?
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg? Cedillo, aye.
That bill is out 6-0. Item number 6, AB 275 by Assemblyman Solorio. Chair voted aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Hancock? Hancock, aye. Huff? Steinberg.
We'll place a call on item number 6. Item number 8, AB 320 by Assemblyman Solorio, as amended, with Huff and Benoit added as co-authors. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Cedillo, aye. Huff.
Aye.
Huff, aye. Steinberg. Wright.
Bill is
Wright, aye.
Bill's out 6-0. Welcome, Senator Wright. Moving on to item number 9, AB 504 by Assemblyman Fortani. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Huff.
Item 9.
Huff, aye. Steinberg.
That bill is out 6-0. Item number 7, AB 307 by Assemblyman Cook. Chair voting no will lift the call.
Cedillo. Hancock. No. Hancock, no. Steinberg. Wright. Aye. Wright, aye.
That bill fails 3-2 without objection from the committee. We will offer Assemblyman Cook reconsideration.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 24, AB 114 by Assemblywoman Carter. Chair voting aye will lift the call.
Cedillo. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Steinberg.
Restorative justice.
That bill is out
Cedillo,
4-2. Item number 14, AB 811 by Assemblyman Perez. As amended, chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Steinberg. Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye.
That bill is out 5-0. Item number 11, AB 748 by Assemblyman Gilmore. Chair voting no. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. No. Cedillo, no. Hancock. Hancock, no. Sorry. Steinberg. Wright. Wright, no.
That bill fails 2-4. And without objection from the committee, Senator Benoit has requested reconsideration, which is granted. Item number 13, AB 806 by Assemblyman Fuentes. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Benoit.
No.
Benoit, no. Cedillo.
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Huff. Huff, no. Steinberg. Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye.
That bill is out 4-2. Item number 19, AB 1074 by Assemblywoman Conroy. That was a ROCA bill. Item number 17, AB 988 by Assemblywoman Brownlee. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo.
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Steinberg. Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye.
That bill is out 6-0. Item number 18, AB 1017 by Assemblyman Portantino. As amended, chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Steinberg. Wright. Wright, aye.
That bill is out 6-0. Item number 20, AB 1209 by Assemblywoman Ma. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Steinberg. Wright. Wright, aye.
That bill is out 6-0. Consent calendar, we will lift the call. 2 items. Items number 10 and 21. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Steinberg, Wright. Wright, aye.
Consent calendar is out 6-0. Item number 22, AB 1390 by Assemblyman Blumenfield as amended. Chair voting aye. Lift the call, please.
Cedillo. Steinberg, Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye.
That bill is out 6-0. Cedillo, aye. Okay, so we just have a few, I think 3 calls to lift. Item number 2, AB 99 by Assemblyman De Leon. Call the absent members, please.
Steinberg, Wright.
Item 2.
Wright, aye.
That bill is out 4-2. Item number 3, AB 241 by Assemblyman Nava as amended. Lift the call, please.
Steinberg.
That's the same thing. Sorry. We're going to keep that on call just for a moment and move on to item number 6, AB 275 by Assemblyman Solorio. Lift the call, please.
Steinberg.
Right. Right.
No.
Call right.
No, he voted for it already. Yes. Yeah, there's 4.
That bill is out 4-0. And
The last one is item 3. Item 3. We already called it. Yes. Last call.
17, yeah, Buffalo 17.
Item 17. Yes. He said
the last item before us is item number 3, Assemblyman Nava's AB 241. We are going to lift the call. There has been a request for reconsideration. If there are not sufficient votes, without objection from the committee, that reconsideration would be granted. Lift the call, please, on item number 3.
lift the call on item number 3. Steinberg.
So that bill fails 3-3 as amended, and that ostensibly makes the bill a 2-year bill. We will take up reconsideration in the new year. And without any other business before us, Senator Benoit?
We returned the vote on 17. I think there was a confusion.
Of course. Returning to item 17.
We called the vote.
This is AB 988. Brownlee. We have a 6-0 vote. We've already called the vote.
Just a second. Let me see. Hold
Yeah, we're going to hold for a moment, folks.
What can we do?
Item number 6.
6. I think it did. Let me see. Yeah, 4-0.
Okay, 4-0.
Solari was 275, am I?
275. Let me see.
Solari.
Let me see my item. 275. What are you looking at? I have an I vote on you in your motion.
Right, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay.
Daryl can add to the one that was following the rules.
Members, seeing no other business before this committee, I thank all our committee members for their focused and dedicated work through this season, and we stand adjourned.